Good morning, everybody. I hope you can all hear me. Jolly good. Okay, thank you for joining us on our third virtual forum entitled Living with and Beyond Cancer, Promoting Personalised Care within Hampshire Hospitals Foundation Trust Cancer Services. I'm so looking forward to the presentations today. There is so much that we can do to enhance the lives of all of us, and I'm excited to be part of this. For those who don't know me, I'm Frankie Webb and I'm Chair of Cancer Services Partnership. CSP is an unregistered small charity run by and for people affected by cancer. We are all volunteers. We work in co-production with HHFT as a voice for all those of us that use the service. We are committed to working together so that all cancer patients, their families and caregivers in North and Central Hampshire can have the best possible experience through their cancer journey and beyond. We are also able to signpost to a network of support for all those lives that have been touched by cancer. We have several guest speakers that are all experts in their own field. We're also very fortunate and grateful to be supported by Drop the Mask Productions, who are our technology and media services partner. Ben is co-hosting and managing all the technical aspects. This company's aim is to grant people the freedom to come to work as their perfectly imperfect selves and empower those in the third sector by changing the way that business is done. I wish to thank everybody for giving up their time at no cost. And also thank you so much to Eileen and Jackie, who have worked tirelessly to put this together. Eileen will introduce each speaker before their session. We will have a few questions at the end of each session, and if time allows, at the end of the forum too. There are a couple of comfort breaks during the morning. Please do remain logged into the forum, but if you need to take additional breaks, please do so. We will be sharing slides from many of our support groups and speakers during the breaks. I will now hand over to Eileen, who will be facilitating. I do hope you and us all really will enjoy this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Frankie. And so firstly, can I echo Frankie's warm welcome. So as you've already heard, Ben will be managing all the technical aspects of this event. He will mute all your microphones to help manage the distraction of outside noise. I've got a dog, so I do apologise, but I will make sure I'm on mute when needed. We'll also be recording this event, and that's going to be shared on our website. So those who haven't been able to attend will be able to see everything that we've arranged for you all. You may wish to turn your cameras off for privacy if you don't feel comfy with being videoed. There will be an opportunity to ask questions, and these can be asked at the end of each session. We'll ask you to type your questions into the chat box, which is just at the bottom there, and then I'll sort of pull them all together and I'll present those questions to each speaker. You can find, as I've just said, the chat box is at the bottom there. So if we haven't got time to answer every single question, now I must say that CSP are not able to answer any specific questions about the current or future Hampshire Hospital services, but if you want to ask any specific questions, then please pop it in the chat box and we can forward that to the appropriate person. Now, so you have a good view, there's some instructions on how to pin your screen, and then you can get the speaker right across your whole screen. And those instructions are in the chat box. It's a virtual forum. So we're at the destiny of the virtual world. We have professionals supporting us. So we're going to do this together. So I'm going to move over to the agenda. And our first speaker is going to be Chris Lomas. And Chris wasn't able to attend today due to some other commitments. So she's very kindly recorded her presentation. So Ben, could we have Chris's presentation, please?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Lomas. I'm Living with and Beyond Cancer Programme Manager, and I'm from within the Living with and Beyond Cancer team within NHS England Cancer Programme. I'm sorry I can't be with you this morning in person, but I do hope you all have an enjoyable meeting. So, living with and beyond cancer, where did the terminology come from? So just to give a bit of background, it started from the survivorship movement really, which started around 2008 and was very much championed by Macmillan and set about improving support and outcomes for people affected by cancer. And then this was further adopted by the 2015 National Strategy paper for England called Achieving World-Class Cancer Outcomes. And then this was further adopted within the NHS long-term plan, which is the current strategy paper that we're working towards. And it's these commitments towards personalised care for people living with and beyond cancer that as a team we're focusing on achieving today. So the long-term plan on living with and beyond cancer. So it states in the plan that for everybody diagnosed with cancer will have access to personalised care, and these interventions are the personalised care and support plan based on the holistic needs assessment, health and wellbeing information and support, the end of treatment summary, and the cancer care review. And it also states in the long-term plan that for specific cancers, patients will move to a personalised stratified follow-up pathway once their treatment ends. And we call this PSFU for short. And at the moment, we're implementing this across the country for breast, prostate and colorectal patients. And we're also working on one additional cancer, but there's a view moving forward that this will be offered in all cancers where it's felt this is appropriate. So this slide here illustrates the patient journey across the pathway. So if you look at the little man, or little person at the top, you can see their pathway across the top from prevention, diagnosis, treatment and onwards. And then below are the personalised care interventions that I mentioned in the previous slide. So there is an expectation that patients will have access and be supported by these interventions across their cancer journey. So they don't just happen at a certain point. Certainly for holistic needs assessment and information and support, that should be available across the journey, and end of treatment summaries will come after treatment has ended, and cancer care reviews are delivered 12 months after diagnosis in primary care. So this next slide is around personalised care across the NHS. So we focus on the personalised care interventions for people affected by cancer, but again this is actually a long-term plan commitment that personalised care should be implemented across the NHS, and they've developed the comprehensive model within NHS England, which is a framework and a suite of interventions that provide people with equality in health. The 6 personalised care components are shared decision making, personalised care and support planning, enabling choice, social prescribing and community-based support, supported self-management and personal health budgets. And for people affected by cancer, we would expect that shared decision making, personalised care and support planning and choice as to where you're able to go for treatment, that these are available, and also social prescribing and community-based support. This may be triggered from your cancer care review within primary care, and supported self-management, which is the information and the education that we're able to support you with to enable you to be better informed about how to maintain your health and well-being. So these are those 6 components from the comprehensive model of personalised care, and this just shows how the interventions that we're doing within cancer services are aligned with the national model. So as you can see, we've got personalised care and support planning based on holistic needs assessment. We've got the end of treatment summary at the bottom, health and wellbeing information and support, both of which enable people to build their own knowledge and skills and confidence in how to manage their condition. And the cancer care review in primary care, as I've just mentioned. And then this, excuse me, this slide shows our personalised stratified follow-up pathway. So if you look across the top from diagnosis and repeated at relevant time points, we have the personalised care and support planning based on holistic needs assessment and ongoing support and information for health and well-being. So these should be available across the journey, and then as patients move through diagnosis and treatment, they will have personalised care and support planning and be involved in shared decisions about their follow-up. And for some patients, they will have more traditional follow-up, which will be a face-to-face or phone appointment with a consultant. But for many patients now, they will be equipped with information and education to enable them to manage their condition in the community. They will still have appropriate surveillance and monitoring tests, which will be triggered and managed by the hospital, but people will only need to go back to the hospital if they really need to. And underpinning all of this in the box below are the key personalised care interventions. So underpinning this pathway, it's important that people have access to personalised care and support planning based on an assessment of their needs, and that they have information on signs and symptoms of recurrence, that they have access to health and wellbeing information and support, and that they're given support to be able to self-manage. And surveillance scans and tests will still be scheduled as normal, but people will be given rapid access to clinics should they need it. And they should also know who they can contact if they have any worries. And also the cancer care review within primary care. And just to point out that the supported self-management part of the pathway, in some areas you may hear of it referred to as patient-initiated follow-up. I'm afraid it's another NHS England acronym, that's PIFU. And that's an initiative that's being rolled out across lots of outpatient departments, not just within cancer services. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm not there to take any questions, but please do email me should you have anything that you would like to ask. Okay, well, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.
So thank you to Chris. I really felt as though she was here with us, and that was great. So I hope that's given you a really good overview of what personalised care is about nationally. And if you've got any questions about that, again, just pop it into the chat box. So we're going to move on now to try and have some understanding from Steph Heath. And Steph is Personalised Care Lead from the Wessex Cancer Alliance. So welcome, Steph. Thank you for joining us. And then Steph's presentation, please. Hello.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you. It's really, really nice to be here this morning and to join your forum. So thank you so much for the invite. It's an absolute pleasure. So as Eileen said, my name is Steph Heath, and I joined the team at Wessex Cancer Alliance about a year ago as a programme manager for personalised care. And I thought I'd start this presentation, and if we move to the next slide, to provide a little bit of a background about Wessex Cancer Alliance and who we are as an organisation. So Wessex Cancer Alliance is one of 21 alliances across England, and really we're a collaborative. So we are all Wessex Cancer Alliance, everyone in this meeting today, but also it is a collaborative of wider stakeholders. So we have, that includes all the services that provide cancer support and cancer treatment and diagnostics across the Wessex region, as well as other partners. So organisations like Macmillan form part of our board as well. And really our purpose is to work collectively and to foster that sense of teamwork, really, for one shared ambition, and that is really about enhancing and supporting and improving cancer services for people who are receiving any contact with those services, whether that's for cancer screening or people with a confirmed diagnosis of cancer and at any point in their pathway thereon. And the Wessex region, which always makes me smile, because I think outside of the NHS, the reference to Wessex probably hasn't been used since the days of King Alfred, but Wessex region covers the footprint of the whole of Hampshire, the Isle of Wight and Dorset as well. So it's that collaborative between all the parties working together in that area. And broadly speaking, the Alliance fits its work into 5 different pillars of work. So we have a pillar of work around prevention of cancer, around promoting a public health messages around behaviour change, but also about early diagnosis and screening. So a lot of that work focusing on primary care. We also have a pillar of work around access to faster diagnosis, so meeting national targets and ambitions about speed at which people can access services if they have a suspected cancer. We have a pillar of work around cancer treatments and enhancing care in that respect. We have a pillar of work around supporting the workforce that works within those services, making sure that they're equipped with the knowledge, the skills and all the expertise to fulfil those roles. And then the pillar of work that I mentioned I oversee is the personalised care work programme, which again spans all of those areas. If we can move to the next slide. So really I was thinking about sort of introducing this and I think we can all agree that personalised care is really important. And I was looking through our Cancer Alliance strategy document, and I've shamelessly stolen your words, and this actually is a graphic that comes from the Cancer Services Partnership, and I think it sums it up really, really well about what we're trying to fulfil here. And for me, I've been working in the NHS for over 20 years. My background is a nurse, and I really think personalised care is about choice, it's about voice, it's about control, and about us working differently and in partnership with people and communities to make sure that we receive and that we're providing care that really is focused on that individual and what matters to them, and putting them at the heart of decision making, at the heart of the support and care that we're providing. Chris mentioned in her slides about the ambitions within the long-term plan for providing a more personalised approach across healthcare services as a whole. I think there is a real recognition that there is more that we should be doing for this, and it was a real central theme in the long-term plan throughout all services, but specifically cancer services was one of the areas where it had some real explicit ambitions that we should be achieving. If we could move to the next slide, this is taken from that second document Chris mentioned, which is the Universal Personalised Care Model. And this really goes into the next detail and putting the meat on the bones about what do we mean by personalised care, But I think importantly for me, and it may just be cut across the bottom of the slide, unfortunately, this document not just says what personalised care is, but it also helps us to be thinking about what are the things that enable this to become a reality. And it recognises that we need to have the right funding in place, the right services commissioned. We need to have the workforce with the right knowledge, skills and competence to deliver a more personalised approach. But critically, we also need to be having that partnership approach. We need to be working with individuals to create a more personalised approach for them, but we also need to be working with communities around shaping services and designing services so they work for individuals as well. On the next slide, this is really sort of thinking about how we create those national ambitions into a Wessex plan. And these are just some of the headlines really from how we translate that for a Wessex approach, and thinking about some of those priority ambitions nationally and in the long-term plan about making those personalised care interventions like holistic needs assessments and personalised care and support plans a reality, how we deliver personalised stratified follow-up, and also how we support the workforce and involve people in that. So what I thought it would be useful, and I'm mindful just got a few minutes this morning, is just to give some examples of ways that as an alliance we're working with teams to be making those ambitions a reality, and a couple of the projects, some of which members on this forum have played a real key part in shaping. So it was really to share those with you. So the first of those projects on the next slide is a project that the Wessex Cancer Alliance are working and in partnership with Macmillan Cancer Support. And this is a project called Right By You Wessex. And it's been a project that's been a couple of years really in the making, but we're actually just getting off the ground in terms of the delivery. And it's really thinking about how we provide those personalised interventions, how we have those supportive conversations and shape personalised care and support plan. And prior to doing this project, we had some listening exercises which were done with Local Health Watch and Wessex Voices teams, and they spoke to people with lived experience of cancer and asked them what they needed from their services and from local support. And what they told us is that people really valued the support and the treatment from hospital-based teams, but life happens outside of a hospital setting, and therefore that support offer should be available outside of hospital settings as well. It should be convenient, it should be there where you need it and when you need it, and it shouldn't be prescribed around treatment. It should be a flexible support offer, and one that is not just focused around that individual, but all the people that are around them and providing them support. So how do we support your support teams and provide that truly wrapped around holistic approaches? And this really laid the foundation for what we want to provide in Right By You. So what are we doing in Right By You? And I'll give you some examples on the next slide. So this service is about lifting that support out of the hospital setting, really, so an extension of the hospital-based support team, and putting cancer nurse specialists and cancer support workers into the communities around people, and to be working with them, their families and their primary care teams to join up those conversations around supportive care following a diagnosis of cancer, and to really focus on that individual and their needs in terms of how they're managing their diagnosis, what are the wider support needs so that they can live fulfilling lives and feel that they've got a support network around them. And as part of this work, we've been working in partnership with people with lived experience of cancer to be thinking about what that service should look like and what resources we should be developing to support those conversations to happen, and so people have a meaningful and owned care plan. And this is just one of the resources that advisory group has come up with, which is fairly hot off the press, but we've designed with them their own personalised care and support plan, which includes a holistic needs assessment, which we'll be using in that project. On the next slide, another project that Chris mentioned is thinking about sort of the national ambition for personalised stratified follow-up, or PSFU. So this is about for some people, moving away from a traditional face-to-face follow-up pathway in the years after their active cancer treatment ends, where and moving to a self-management pathway where we're investing in that person early on with the knowledge, the education to be managing health and well-being themselves whilst continuing with surveillance imaging. So a different way to providing that support offer. On the next slide, you'll see sort of where we are regionally in terms of implementation of that. So in that first phase, we were focusing on rolling out those pathways in breast, prostate and colorectal cancer. In Hampshire hospitals, I think it's fair to say we're about there. We've got the technology up and running. We're really just at the phase of embedding those in pathways. And we're also having conversations, not just in Hampshire hospitals, but across the region about the next pathways where we develop this new mechanism of support. And we've had a lot of interest in hematological cancers, and thyroid cancers are likely to be our next phase of development for those. So very much watch this space, and that network is moving quite fast. On the next slide, we're thinking really a little bit further than those national ambitions about what more we could do with those pathways to really enhance people's confidence in their self-management ability. And we're really fortunate in the Alliance to have a strong partnership with the Macmillan Survivorship Research Group at the University of Southampton. So people with a lot of expertise and have been doing a lot of work and research around how we equip people with that self-management confidence and skills following their cancer diagnosis over the last few years. They've been involved in a range of different work, and they'll be working with us over the next year, thinking about how as healthcare professionals we can tune into that more. We can work with people to identify where they are on that spectrum of confidence, of self-management ability, and what we can do to better support people and influence people to progress their self-management ability. So those are just really some of the headline findings. And on the next slide, I really go back to your own words, which I think are really key to what we're trying to achieve with this this work programme. And all of those projects have got people with direct experience and lived experience of cancer informing and shaping those projects around what they look like, how they should work. But we always want to do more, and one of the things moving forward as Alliance that we're hoping to set up is an involvement and partnership network and forum, so that we have that voice and representation within our team meetings, and a panel that we can be working with directly to inform our strategy going forward and our planning going forward, and to be working with us as partners and critical friends in doing that. So I'll send some further information about that initiative through to the Cancer Services Partnership, but it's really just to thank you for your time and your commitment and involvement in all of this work so far, and happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you so much, Steph. That really has helped. And just to let everybody know, if you've got any questions, what it's like to be involved with the Alliance, I am helping with some of those projects. So if you want to know it from the other side, just fire away, contact me and ask. So has anybody got any questions for Steph? I'm just going to put the big screen on. I can't see any hands popping up. So if anybody thinks of anything as we move forward, well, as I've said, obviously I will forward those questions on to Steph. Okay, thank you, Steph, and enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm not able to join for longer this morning, but we have some training which we're doing with a group which involves some of our lived experience advisors. So yeah, so but okay. Really pleased to be here for this part of the morning. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to hearing about personalised care's plans in Hampshire hospitals. So I'm going to hand over to Jana. Jana, I know you're there. Hello. So could we have Jana's presentation, please?
So thank you so much, everybody at the CSP, for organising this day. A bit like Steph, I'm just delighted to be here, really. And sorry, that is my little Jack Russell in the background. You may potentially be able to hear him adding his thoughts because he can't help himself. But it's so lovely to be here because, well, firstly, I'm in a new role. So my role at Hampshire Hospitals is the Macmillan Supportive Care Lead. I am an oncology specialist dietitian by background, but actually back in 2008, which is what Chris Lomas was talking about, when all of this kind of personalised care really started, I was involved, and at that time it was referred to as that National Cancer Survivorship Initiative. So it's something that I have been talking about to my colleagues and known about, and wanted to be very much more involved in for a long time. So here I am. This role is 100% focused on that. So we've got a fantastic team of people here in cancer services. There's a few of us are relatively new, so including myself, and then Vicky, who's our lead cancer nurse. She's been in post since the middle of September, and Emily Arbuthnot, our head of cancer services as well. She's relatively new into the cancer services side of things. And then we've got Edit, who's kind of less new. So that's us in a nutshell. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So what does personalised care mean to us here at Hampshire Hospitals? Well, it's really an echo of everything that Chris and Steph have been talking about in the last few minutes. It is just thinking about more than the diagnosis and the treatment. It's about treating the person as a whole, not just the disease. It's doing the right thing at the right time for the right patient. So that very much kind of fits in with the philosophy of the Right by You project that's running with Macmillan. It's ensuring again that we are collaborating with external partners, and we're learning from what other trusts are doing. We're listening to what our patients want. I mean, there's very little point in us forging ahead if we are not asking the people who are actually going to be using these services what's important to them. And it's really nice to hear that echoed through everything that everyone else is saying, and it's absolutely vital that we do that. Co-design and co-collaboration is the new, it's the new kind of power structure, really. You know, we have got the power to shape services. And it's around education, so making sure that we are also looking, you know, internally kind of into the trust as well, and what are the education needs of our staff, but then also looking externally to our PCNs, you know, what are the kind of the wider needs in order for us to be able to deliver this personalised care agenda. It's looking at, again, those kind of health and well-being needs, you know, those wider needs that need to be met by people going through their cancer journey. And it's making sure that our approach is very integrated. People don't spend their whole time in the hospital. They spend a lot of that time, in fact, the majority of their time out in the community. So we need to ensure that whatever approach we're taking reaches out beyond the walls of the hospital. So why is it important? Well, it ensures that actually people going through cancer and their families have got better access to information and education, and they feel better supported. They feel empowered and are better able to have more of a say about their treatment. They are better able to manage their conditions. They can take a more active role in their care, and actually the knock-on is fairly significant because it can result in better outcomes and better quality of life. Could we move on to the next slide, please? So here at HHFT, it's one great big project after the other, and as with all projects, there is a process for all of these things. So at the moment, we've kind of put together our three-phase process, really. So at the moment, we have been going through our information gathering phase. We're probably coming to the end of that now, so kind of three to 4 months later. The next phase is going into our planning of our services. So Vicky, our lead cancer nurse, has been spending a lot of time talking to our nurses, the CNSs, our specialist nurses, seeing what their thoughts and their needs are, and then what needs to happen in order for us to be completing these holistic needs assessments. You know, are they being done? When are they being done? If they're not being done, you know, what do we need to do? And then phase 3 is our go live. So once we've gathered all our information, we know what we need to do, we've put all that information together and we've planned our services, then we can flick the switch and go live. So if we move on to the next slide, please. So hopefully the vast majority of you here have had at least one conversation with me. I've certainly spent an awful lot of time these last few months going around Hampshire and finding out all about what's happening in the community and also kind of within our trust to support our cancer patients. And they're really, it's amazing really, kind of to find out what people are doing. So it's been a really useful 3 months, and I've made some amazing kind of friends and networked a lot. So thank you everybody for that. So if we move on to the next slide. So our conclusions so far, well, there are some absolutely amazing people doing amazing things. There really are. And we all want the same things as well. That's the key thing. You know, we're not fighting against each other. We all understand the issues. We all want to be doing the same thing to support our cancer patients. We are asking about wider needs, but we probably need to do that better. And then finding information is hard work. So that's probably one of the biggest conclusions so far, is actually talking to people and where are they going to find information, whether that's staff or patients. It is a real challenge. So a big part of my role is to ensure that we can pull all of this information together and make it less difficult for staff within the trust and within the community and patients and their families to find this information. Another conclusion as well is emotional support is lacking. It's not just within our trust, but actually the wider, well, in fact, it's probably kind of nationally, this is a real issue. So this is something we are focusing on. Physical activity is really important. I know this is probably one of my favourite topics, but actually where can we refer our patients to here? Again, it is really limited, so I'm working very hard on resolving that. Access to in-house support. You know, what do we have here at HHFT? Not an awful lot at the moment. We do rely very heavily on the community, but it goes back to the finding information part. It's really challenging. So it is pulling all these things together. We've got a brilliant workforce, and like Steph had been saying, you know, potentially we need to start looking at using our workforce in a different way and supporting them and educating them and making sure that we're in the right place at the right time. And that may not necessarily always be in the hospital setting. And support as well, it really means different things to different people. You know, one size does not fit all. So we really need to remember that. And that's very much the personalised care approach. The other thing as well is complementary therapy is a really popular option for patients on a cancer journey. And this is not new. This is happening across the country in different NHS settings. And actually there may be a lot of benefit to the complementary therapies as with the emotional support, the psychology support and the physical activity, pulling all those things together can go a long way to better support our patients as they're going through their cancer journey. Could we have the next slide, please? So we're, like I said, almost at the end of our information gathering phase of our project, but the most important part is really asking you all your opinions. So today I am hoping that we're going to launch our survey, asking your opinions about supportive services and well-being in the trust, and what you think, what is it that you really want to see. So this is really important. Don't think that your opinions don't count, because they really, really do. And I probably say this 10 times a week, that there's very little point me sitting here in my role doing what I think we should be doing, when it could be completely different to what people going through that or having that lived cancer experience actually want. So please engage and fill out the questionnaire. It is only 5 minutes. So thank you. So if we move on to the next slide, we're almost at the end now. So our phase 2, so just to kind of run you through what we mean by this planning part of our project. This is kind of the nuts and bolts, really. How does it all work? The logistics side, where do we get things like sharp spins, or how do we know who in terms of workforce is going to deliver our services. So we need to kind of next really start thinking about what services are we going to be providing, which ones are we going to be signposting to. So that's been really important these last few months, making those connections in the community, who's doing what, and how can we really work together and ensure that we know where we're signposting our patients and their families. But it's also things like referral pathways. How are we going to ensure that our patients are being referred into the supportive care or wellbeing services, and then looking at how we're evaluating services as well. How do we know that the services that we are providing are working and being effective and people like them? So we need to be looking at that at every step of this process. And then if we go to the last slide, please. Oh, there it is. Look, the go live. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so fancy, that slide, but the go live phase. So this is the really exciting part. Although, please don't expect to see a great big party on opening day, because I don't intend to do that, because we do need to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So we will probably have a kind of a soft launch. We'll start off with some services. So, potentially we will open the door to physical activity groups or classes, and we'll again evaluate and see how those things go. Perhaps we will open the doors and we'll have complementary therapy, but we won't be up and running at 100% capacity, because again, we need to know that all our processes work. So it's all happening here at Hampshire Hospital. There's a lot of projects. I know I've not been terribly specific with those projects, but everything we are doing is going towards better supporting our patients and their families and their caregivers along this cancer journey. So last slide, just to say thank you very much, and please do get involved and spend that 5 minutes filling in the survey that we will send out at the end of today. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Jana. I know I personally feel really excited knowing what's happening at Hampshire Hospitals, moving forward with personalised care, exactly what our community needs.
Absolutely.
Just to say that we will be sharing all the slides from today, and we're also recording the whole session. So that will all be shared on our website, and the slides potentially will go on our website and be emailed to you. So be rest assured you will be able to review the whole lot that you're hearing today. So there is a question, Jana, for you. So from Martin, thank you, Martin. Is anything being done to specifically engage with men who are often reluctant to engage and be proactive in seeking support for their needs?
But yes, Martin, absolutely. I think, well, you and your support group are very much on my radar, and ensuring that we're engaging with those groups that won't necessarily come forward immediately are very much my priority. So I know from experience that you know, you put a service out there, or you put a questionnaire out there, or you ask a question, and you tend to get the people who are interested come forward. But actually it's those people who don't come forward that are probably the people who need to be supporting even more. So yes, very much on the radar.
Yeah, thank you, Jana. And Marianne's popped in, this all sounds really positive for supporting cancer patients at hospitals. And she says a thank you to Jana.
Oh.
Are you able to pop the questionnaire link into the chat box? But to be rest assured, we will be sharing this very speedily, because we've sort of been supporting and Jana, and we proofread it for you as well. So didn't we, Jana? So
yes, thank you.
It's absolutely brilliant, and it does only take 5 minutes because I've tried it.
And yes, what I'll do is, if I hopefully my skills will stretch that far, and I'll put the link into the chat box. But just to say as well, if you could complete that and have that back to me before the 24th of November, that would be brilliant, because I intend to share the results from that at the cancer board meeting, which I think is on the 30th of November. So it'd be lovely to have the information from you and to put a narrative to it, so it really means something to the board. Would be brilliant.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. So our voices will be heard. So we're going to, so thanks again, Jana. There's some thank yous in the chat box. So we're going to move to a break now, a little comfort break. So if we could have our little slides, Ben, so everybody can relax and enjoy a 5-minute break. We're going to all come back together at 10:26, I think, to be precise. So do enjoy the slides, and when we come back, we're going to come back and have some little energizing work with Lisa, and then we'll move into our next speaker. So it's now 10:26. So if everybody wants to get themselves comfy, and we'll come back together. Thank you, Ben, for the slideshow. So we're going to start off the next part of this morning with a little session from Lisa Nightingale. So Lisa, welcome. We're going to hear more from Lisa a bit later on, but she felt that it would be nice to have a little sort of energizing breathing work before we move into the next speaker. So Lisa.
Hello everyone, sorry, just waiting to be unmuted, so here I am. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here today. I'm very much enjoying it so far and looking forward to the rest of it. So the idea behind this little session is just to prepare us for our next moment of sitting down, just a moment just to tune into ourselves, which we don't often get a chance to do. So I'm going to invite you just to sit up straight in your chair, so a nice straight spine, whatever feels comfortable for you. And then if you can actually get your little hands out, and then what we're going to do is just give them a shake. What tends to happen is that energy, which is what I'm going to be talking about later, gets stuck in our extremities. So I mean, you can shake your legs as well if you like, but as we're sitting down, it's a little bit more comfortable just to shake your hands. And then shake above your head. Wave to everyone. Shake. As you can see, it's all fun. Okay. So before we sort of go into our breath and connect into our breath, if you feel comfortable, then just close your eyes or just put your gaze down, whatever feels comfortable for you. And I'd invite you to place your palms on your thighs, just so you're sitting comfortably. And to start off with, just take a nice, deep, gentle, slow breath in. You can do that through your nose and out. Or you can do it through your mouth. There's no right or wrong here, whatever feels comfortable for you. And again, breathe in. And out. And one more time. And out. And the next time you take your inhale, just connect in. Feel how you're feeling. Are there any places in your body right now where you're feeling any tension? Is there any discomfort? Is there any pain? Just while you're breathing in and out, just check in with yourself. How am I feeling at this moment, at this time? And just continue to do that for a few more breaths in and out. And then on the next inhale, actually take your breath to those places of tension or awareness that you may have identified. So just breathe into that tension, breathe into that pain. And then as you breathe out, just let that tension or pain be released. And if you want to, you could even give it with a sound. So you could even do a whoosh breath coming out if you felt so inclined. And again. And out. Just breathe to your own rhythm. In and out. And then while you're in this lovely moment of quietness where you've actually checked in with yourself, ask yourself, is there anything you need? Do you need a drink of water? Do you need to perhaps do a little movement? Are you feeling uncomfortable in your seat? Make sure that you're sitting comfortably for the next part of this session. Take one more deep breath in and out. And then if you could just get your shoulders and roll them up and back and down, up and back and down. And one more time, up and back and down. And one more deep breath in and out. And I encourage you to do that at any part of your day. Just take that little moment, few minutes, just to check in with yourself and find out how you're feeling. Is there any tension? What you can do to release it? And what do you need? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That's definitely made a difference for me, and I hope it has everybody else. So now we're nicely prepared for our next speaker, which I'm going to invite Jana back. So Jana is going to talk to us about the benefits of physical exercise, and she's already shared with us that that's one of her special interests. So Jana.
Thank you. Yes, it's me again, talking about my absolute favourite subject. So here are my slides. So physical activity. So I don't tend to refer to this as exercise, because I think that's a barrier immediately to a lot of people, but physical activity. And I'll get to it a bit later on in my slides, but physical activity and cancer. I still get a lot of raised eyebrows when I put those two things together, but we'll go through and see why it shouldn't be raising eyebrows. So if we move to our next slide, please. So I alluded to the kind of the well-being and the supportive care kind of aspects that are within my role and sit very well within the personalised care agenda, ensuring that we are doing our best to support our patients here at HHFT with their health and their well-being. So the three pictures I've got here, I've got this lady here looking very relaxed. She is having some type of complementary therapy. I couldn't guess which one actually, but it looks very nice. So that is definitely part of the way that we intend to support our patients with their health and their well-being. And we've just heard from Lisa, so thank you very much. This little picture in the middle here, this really represents the emotional and psychological aspects around cancer care, which are just so important. But unfortunately, across the whole country, so not just here, it's not very well supported at the moment, so we're working very hard on that. And then this bigger picture here is the physical activity side. So if we go to the next slide, we can so if we move to the next slide, please. There we go. So this may look reasonably familiar to people. So when we talk about physical activity, what does it really mean? You know, what have those clever people kind of said that actually this is what's going to benefit our health? So full stop, whether it's in cancer or not, whether it's long-term conditions or not. So it's that cardiovascular element of physical activity, and there's also the strength side of physical activity. So 150 minutes of moderate intensity activities. You can do them in bouts of 10 minutes if you want to, but what does that really mean? I mean, it works out about 30 minutes every day, 5 days a week as your minimum. So that's really your cardiovascular physical activity. And then it talks about the muscle strengthening activity. So this wasn't initially, when the NHS England put all of this advice together, it wasn't really included, it wasn't particularly specific, but we know that actually working on our muscle strength is so, so important. And it's something that in healthcare we really focus on. And those physiotherapists that are on the wards supporting patients to get up and out of bed, you know, this is what they're really working on, because actually when people get poorly, they lose muscle mass so rapidly. So it's really important because it has significant knock-on effects. It will impact your quality of life, it will impact your mobility, it can potentially impact your balance and overall well-being. So strength exercises, really, it's kind of looking at trying to do those two days a week. This does include yoga, you may see here from the pictures, and also carrying some heavy shopping and some weights. So things that I am looking at as part of kind of the wellbeing supportive care programs that I'm hoping to implement here at HHFT. Yoga is definitely one of those. So, you know, I haven't just kind of plucked it from nowhere. You know, there's some real kind of science and evidence behind everything that I do. Something that is not outlined here, but I have mentioned, is the exercises that can really help with your balance and coordination. So we know as healthcare professionals that actually as we get older and we're losing our muscle mass, it can impact on our balance and our coordination, and that can lead to a fall, and that can lead to a stay in hospital. So that's what we're trying to avoid. And of course, you know, if you're undergoing treatment for cancer as well, you know, everything can really kind of be impacted by your treatment. So if we move to the next slide, so how active are we in the UK? We're not very good. But I don't think that probably comes as a great surprise to anybody. So 1 in 4 women and 1 in 5 men in England are classed as physically inactive. So that is doing less than 30 minutes of moderate physical activity a week. I mean, that's quite shocking, isn't it? It's quite a shocking statistic, but this is the reality. And I think a lot of the time we are so busy here, you know, just here, just, you know, sitting in our meetings, doing you know, what we need to do to get through the working day, that you get to the end of your day and you're exhausted. But actually it's mental exhaustion as opposed to any kind of physical exhaustion. So that's where all of those the wearable technology can be really useful. Sorry, my dogs have got something to say about physical activity. Maybe it's walk time for them. But also it's the muscle strengthening exercises. So, I mean, these are really important, but we just do not do enough of these. We love nothing more as kind of humans to sit around and conserve our energy. We're really, really good at that. But we need to you know, actively try to avoid doing that. So if we move on to the next slide, please. So in terms of, oh, that's not the best slide, is it, to see, but kind of in terms of, I'm just going to have to tell my dogs to be quiet. So yeah, my dogs have heard physical activity and they want to go for a walk, is what they have confirmed with all that noise in the background. So yes, so really in terms of physical activity, it's so important with those people that are diagnosed with cancer. I mean, it really is. And cancer survivors as well. So after your treatment, it's so important. And actually physical activity during cancer treatment has been found to have some real impacts, so some benefits. So there are some positive impacts on some of the side effects of treatment. It can have a positive effect on mood, so anxiety, depression, fatigue, interestingly. So the statistics say that up to 100% of people will experience fatigue as a result of their cancer treatment. And it might not quite seem right that we're encouraging you to do physical activity if you're feeling fatigued, because you'd think that actually I'll become more fatigued, but the evidence suggests it's quite the opposite. So in fact, just small bouts of physical activity, even if it's just walking to the lamppost and back, can have really big benefits. But I think it's really interesting around the side effects, actually, the impact of physical activity on the side effects of cancer and its treatment. I mean, the evidence is just, I mean, there's just so much of it, in more and more. But also something that I'm involved in at the moment is just the beginnings of a project looking at the benefits of cancer for palliative patients. Now, I think that really does raise eyebrows when we start talking about that, but the potential impacts on physical function, mood and quality of life are really significant. So this is something that we're going to really be looking at. Now, if we move to the next slide. So this is my call to action. What are we doing here in Hampshire hospitals about physical activity? I am looking to organise some classes, some exercise classes. So like I said, I'm not plucking things out of thin air. I'm not making things up. I've chosen things very specifically. So the yoga, for example, fits really nicely into our strength category. If you look at the recommendations, things like Tai Chi or Qigong, you know, they fit really nicely, again, with the doing exercises or physical activity that can improve your balance, your strength. So we kind of tick that category, and then looking at having our own exercise classes delivered by a qualified exercise professional. So somebody who's trained to a cancer rehab level 4 level and knows exactly what they're doing when they're working with people who are, you know, going through cancer treatment, or perhaps they're kind of in those early stages of where they've just finished treatment. And I think it can be quite overwhelming to step back into a gym or a class after you've been through something like cancer, because you know there are a lot of impacts, and you may not feel that you're ready to join that class that you once used to go to. So there are specialists around, and I'm working really hard with a lot of the external agencies. So there's people in Southampton University, there's people kind of within the community. I'm engaging with the leisure centres as well, just to see how best we can kind of join all this up, so we can start something, support our patients in Hampshire hospitals, but also being able to signpost and support people as they go out from the hospital. Because like we've said, people do not spend probably more than 10% of their time in the hospital setting. You know, they live their lives in the community, and that's where we need to be supporting them. So if we go on to the last slide, I would just say thank you very much. Actually, one thing I did forget to tell you, if we go back one slide, this was my interesting fact, actually. This is the interesting fact. So 1 in 10 doctors and nurses still believe it is more important to encourage cancer patients to rest than to undertake physical activity. That's quite a big statistic as well, isn't it? More than half of the doctors and nurses, this is from a big national kind of survey, know little or nothing about the benefits of activity in preventing or managing side effects. So again, I have got a lot of work to do in terms of the education of our staff. So that was the fact that I wanted to make sure I told you. But now if we go back to my last slide, it's just to say thank you very much for your time. Physical activity is just incredible, and I tell you what, if it was if they could manufacture it in a pharmaceutical company, they would be, because they'd be making a fortune. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jana. That was really interesting, and I think we'll all agree that when we get out in fresh air and just move, we do start to feel better. Now, there's a couple of questions here for you. So Jackie is really wanted to say that she thinks sometimes it's hard to motivate ourselves to go for that walk or do some exercise when you're going through chemotherapy or radiotherapy. So how can we motivate ourselves? You know, is it group classes? Is it having that buddy that you can knock on your door and chivvy you on to go out? So any tips? And I'm sure we've got Alex here who's spoken often before about physical exercise as well. Any tips that anybody's got to help motivate?
Yeah, it's really challenging. And I think, you know, when you are feeling so fatigued or when you are experiencing those side effects, the last thing you want to do is to put your trainers on and go for a walk. But I think knowing that there is real benefit, you know, I think that's really powerful. The fact that you've got that control, you are able to potentially influence how you are feeling. I think, you know, that's a real key thing. And I think if we hear that more and more from our medical teams and our healthcare providers, you know, I think that goes a long way in encouraging people to actually, you know, participate. And it really does not need to be a lot.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. So there's some more comments coming in now. So have a look, Jana. So Alex has obviously commented. Thank you, Jana. It's great to hear that HHFT are getting on board with this. Cindy has said she agrees with Jackie. Zoom exercise really has been helping her and feeling better just knowing that you're in a group class and meeting up. Chair yoga has helped as well. And Sheila Burrows says, as someone living with cancer for 5 years, how much exercise should a 75 plus aim for? Now that's an interesting question. So Jana, are you able to answer that?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I have to keep muting myself because my dogs are, they've got so much to say at the moment. So,
my dog started as well.
No, it's really interesting actually, because there are no recommendations at the moment for physical activity if you've got cancer. So nothing specific like for the general population. But if you're coming to the end of your treatment and you're generally well, then you can absolutely follow the recommendations. And over and above the age of 75, it's those balance and coordination activities that are really important, and the muscle strengthening. So I would almost say that those are the things to really focus on. But as we do get older, actually, I think it's something like 52% of people aged 75 and over engage in less than 30 minutes of physical activity a week. So, you know, whether you've got cancer or not, physical activity is so important. Actually, just moving more and sitting less is the key.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's lots of comments coming here now. So Alex, it's about just doing what you feel, as you've really intimated.
Really listening to your body is the key thing. But knowing as well that being physically active, if you've got any type of a long-term health condition, it's actually safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Cass, who's one of our Macmillan Gynae oncology support workers, she said there's lots on YouTube, so that's a good thing to search out. Alex again has said yes, it's great work, go for a walk with a friend. Fran Williams has said great to see how much is happening locally. There's lots on local gyms, often subsidises actually if you have cancer. That's from Deb. Andrea said, I've continued practicing yoga throughout her treatment and she feels convinced, and I'm sure we'll all agree actually that's really beneficial. And Alex, can I just go, Alex, I will come to you, but if I could just add, again, someone saying thank you to you again, and obviously Frankie, our chair, says, and we all know that Frankie likes her canal walks. So Alex, I'm going to invite Alex just to say a few words, Jana. So thank you so much, and if anybody's got anything else for Jana, pop it in the chat box and we'll send it on to her. So once again, Jana, thank you for speaking. So Alex, is someone able to unmute Alex for us, or can you do that yourself, Alex?
I am unmuted, I hope. So I hope you can all hear me.
Lovely.
No, thank you so much for that, Jana. You know I'm as passionate about that as you are. So really good to hear that you're making a difference. So thank you and well done. There was just a couple of questions. In terms of the guidelines for people going through cancer treatment, every single person is different. And so much of it all depends on your levels of fitness, your levels of activity pre to diagnosis. And one of the things, I mean, as a level 4 cancer specialist PT, one of the things that we are told over and over again is it's all about encouraging people who are living with and beyond cancer to work as closely towards the national guidelines as they possibly can. So for example, for somebody who's quite fit, it might be going for a run 3 times a week. For someone else who's not done much exercise before, it might be going for a gentle stroll. And it's in terms of the question about someone in their 70s, what can they do? Once again, it's so down to you as an individual. I have a client who's 76. She runs 3 times a week. She goes to ballet classes. She does yoga. She does so much, and she's got active cancer. And I've got another lady who's in her 70s who does much less than that. So it's all about doing what's right for you. There's no right or wrong answer. So it's all about tailoring it to you and just doing what you can just to stretch yourself that tiny little bit, because stretching yourself, just pushing yourself slightly beyond your comfort zone is the way to improve your fitness and to reap the many benefits that exercise and activity will bring. So thank you for letting me speak.
No, thank you so much, as always, Alex. It's always lovely to hear your thoughts and all the work you do. So thank you. So Cindy is saying LGFB classes are amazing and so uplifting. LGFB, can somebody enlighten me? Or am I just being a bit slow? It helps to motivate you to care for yourself. They are free. Look, oh yes, of course, look good, feel
Looking good, feel better, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, I should be in the zone, shouldn't I? Sorry. Yeah, and Cass has commented, look good, feel better. Thank you, Cass, for coming to my rescue. So no, that was brilliant, really, really interesting about keeping us moving. So we're now going to move over to Nancy. So Nancy Vanderboy is from Hampshire Hospitals, and she's a cancer service consultant, clinical psychologist. So Nancy, over to you. Welcome. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you, Eileen. And that was quite a mouthful, both my name and my title, which, may I say, I think you did with aplomb. So yes, I'm Nancy. I'm absolutely delighted to be here at the Cancer Services Partnership, to be meeting you, to be talking about this new service that, along with Jana, I am setting up. A couple of things I wanted to ask. I mean, I'm a psychologist, and so seeing people is great for me. So if there's anyone who fancies now turning on their video, their image, so that I could see more of you, I will be very grateful. If you want to stay quiet and behind, oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate that. I'm also going to ask the host if just for a couple of moments, oh, thank you everyone for letting me see you. Oh, you all look great. I wondered if the host could also do something for me just for a couple of minutes. Hopefully it won't crash Zoom or whatever. Could everybody just be unmuted for a couple of moments? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Because I see that there are,
yeah, I think
brilliant, thank you. I see that we've got, yeah. I see that we've got 47 participants. Well, or 48. Someone's gone. I wonder what I did. Maybe that's just my paranoia. I know there's a lot of people there. I want to get a bit of a sense of who is out there. So, could I ask you if you are a member of staff who specialises in cancer, or works in cancer, has some experience of cancer? Could I hear you all say, I?
Aye.
I didn't really coordinate that, did I? Okay, I'm going to coordinate it after 3. 1, 2, 3.
Aye.
Okay, all right. If you are someone who has had cancer yourself, or you have supported someone or are supporting someone, could I hear you say after 3, aye? So 1, 2, 3.
Aye.
Oh.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, third one. If you are someone who's not had anything to do with cancer, you don't know anything about it, you don't work in it, could I just hear you say me after 3? 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you, as I expected. So you can mute everyone now if that's all right. So I suppose the reason I did that is I'm here to talk to you about the importance of psychological and emotional needs, the role of that in cancer. But I'm very aware that it's a little bit like walking into a room of very nicely presented chickens and saying, I'd now like to talk to you about eggs. So especially within a very short period of time, I know that many of us have been through it, and many of us work in the area and know a lot about it. So what I'm going to do is just start with a broad context, so that we all know that we're starting from the same point. And then I am going to ask you just for some of your thoughts, and I'm telling you this to begin with, just to plant the seed so your brain will work on it. Some of your thoughts when you've been going through it or working in it that has made you think, God, actually, that's really helped me. Or that didn't help me so much, but I'm more interested in what did really help you, because Jana and I really want to be building a service that includes those elements. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that before I ask you to explain where we're coming from. Sound all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what am I going to say? Let me give you some context. So we know 50 years ago, those of you are old enough to remember that, cancer was almost, a lot of people quite ashamed of having cancer. It wasn't talked about very much. Even when you were in the hospital, the doctors may not, would discuss with the family about whether or not they were going to tell someone they had cancer, especially if it was sort of end of life cancer. And so it was sort of shrouded in secrecy. And over the years, that's changed enormously. And I think it's safe to say that now the impact, not just the physical side of things, but the psychological impact of having cancer is pretty nice. NICE tells us that more than 50% of people who are diagnosed with cancer experience psychological impact, psychological distress at what they call a clinical level, which means at a severe level. Not just, gosh, I'm really upset about that, ho-hum, how am I going to get through it? But much, much more serious than that, more than 50%. That's what NICE say, and I've seen other studies that actually go quite a bit higher, and particularly at diagnosis. What else does NICE tell us? NICE also tells us that about 25% of people who have cancer have such a bad experience that they need specialist input to help them get through. So they need to see someone like a counsellor to talk things through, to come up with solutions, or they need to see a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist, because the impact on them is so severe that it's impacting their decision making or their quality of life or their ability to just deal with what they're going through. So these are really high numbers when you think of how many people have cancer, and that's cancer across the board. We also know that there are trigger points, diagnosis. That's when there's the shock, there's the fear, there's the adjustment, there's the uncertainty to deal with. Going through treatment, as Jana mentioned, the fatigue, the actual, just the impact on your body, the loss of your hair and what that means for you and what that means for other people seeing you as an ill person, and trying to carry on your life with all the demands of all the different appointments. And then once you've been discharged, that woohoo moment when everybody should be in a euphoric state can actually be at the time when you are having to adjust with changes to your body image, reduced abilities to do things, getting back to normal and how you do it, just the trauma of what you've been through. Sometimes that's the time when you can actually think about it once you've been discharged, and that these are all really difficult points for people and at which they would need some support. And in recognition of all of this, in 2004, NICE put out guidelines about what services should be offering so that people would get the necessary emotional and psychological support that they needed at these different times. And that doesn't mean that everybody needs to see a psychologist, not at all, but we are fragile. And everybody needs to get good emotional support from everybody that they come across in the hospital. This is what NICE was saying. So they introduced what they called a level 1, which was training, basic foundation training about how to deal with someone who's fragile and someone who's distressed. And that was training for everyone, from the person who picks up the phone to make an appointment, to the porter, right through to anyone you might have contact with. Then they said there should be a second layer, and this is the layer that's for nurses, clinical nurse specialists, allied health professionals, the people that we all see when we're coming in to get our treatments. And this was extra training because it was saying, you know, nurses and the allied health professionals shouldn't just be relying on their kind of warmth and their empathy and their experience over the years. They should actually have training about how to support people who are going through such a difficult time. And they themselves should get some support for dealing with this. So NICE gave us that, the second layer. And then the third and the fourth layer, they called specialist input. So that is that patients, people who've had cancer, should have access to specialists who can really help them resolve more complicated impacts of having cancer. And NICE put it out there and they said, if a service was run with this, then it would be a gold standard, and it would mean that people could get the support that they needed at the different points from the different people that they saw. And this model has gone viral, as they say these days, and it's been picked up most places. And it's definitely the model that we are going to be using in developing our service. So that's the theory, that's the recognition of why it's important, and that's how we're all going about doing it. But I've got a bit of time to say some more, because what Jana and I want is something new, and to just get some personal experience ideas from you guys. Because what I'll tell you is that I come from a family who have, practically all the women in my family have had cancer, and they've all, I really liked what Alex was saying about how different we all are. They have all responded differently emotionally, and they've all chosen different options. And it's definitely been in my family. And then at the end of 2019, I was also diagnosed with it just before COVID, diagnosed with breast cancer. And through most of 2020, I'm getting my years, I had, first of all, chemotherapy, then I had surgery in the height of COVID, and then I had more chemotherapy. And then September of this year, I had to sort of follow up things that they couldn't do during COVID. And as a patient going through that, it was not at this hospital, it was at a different hospital, I was unfamiliar with it. There were so many things that happened to me during that time that helped. Little things, big things, and there were things that just made me feel more on edge, that just made things more difficult. And the hospital I was seen at was a great hospital, and they sent questionnaires out afterwards to ask about how they can improve the service, and I've sent those back. But also what I'm aware is that there are those little things that they don't ask about, those little gems that, as someone who has experienced it, I think, gosh, that could make such a difference. And I suspect those gems are out there for us all. And when Jana and I build our service, we want the surveys, we want the theory, but we also want those gems. So in the last few moments, I am going to ask for a couple of things, if that's all right. I'm going to ask if you've got things, little gems that you could put in the chat and send through, that would be great. But if we could unmute again, and if people could just throw out their ideas, then I would love that. Because what Jana and I want is a service that's built on the theory, that's good practice, but also that just uses those small, that looks at psychology in its broadest sense, emotional support, and really picks up the gems that those of us who have just been going into those hospitals every week just know, and somehow got lost along the way because they're not questions in the questionnaire and nobody really asks. Okay. That's my presentation.
Lovely.
If you could put them into the chat, if you could throw them out, pen, I'm old school.
Yes. Well, I've encouraged everybody to pop their thoughts in the chat box, and please, everyone, share your gems. Now, I think if we can just unmute for a few moments and hear anybody that wants to speak. I'm going to have to put you all on gallery view because I can't see everybody. So does anybody want to unmute themselves to say anything, or would you prefer just to pop things in to the chat box? Please feel free. We don't want to put you on the spot, but of course you can add further comments onto the survey, because if I recall rightly, Jana, there is an extra comments box in that survey. So if you would rather save it for there. So anybody want to pop their hand up? I'm trying to
I don't think you can. I can't see the option for putting your hand up.
Yeah, I think just physically I was meaning. I'll quickly scan and see if there is anybody. No, everybody's still. Here we are. Pam, daughters, send somewhere safe to vocalise your worst fears rather than internalise. Say them aloud, name the beast.
Wow.
Yes, I know Pam is a specialist consultant in sophrology, and I know this is something she feels quite passionate about. So that's a very good technique. And Jackie's popped in the box, a feeling of self-worth helps. Volunteering during the latter part of radiotherapy really helped her. And Jackie, as you all know, I'm sure, is our secretary here at CSP. The hands up option is part of reactions. So if anybody wants to say anything in the next few moments, so if you click on reactions, can you see the little hand will pop up? If anybody wants to. So I'm just scanning to have a look.
Oh, reactions. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
I think everybody's feeling a bit shy.
I mean, really can.
That's fine.
Anything. I will give you something. Well, this is perhaps a bit negative, but it just happened to me the other day. And it's the kind of thing that you might not think is psychology, but as you know, if you've had chemotherapy, it impacts on your heart. And they've been a bit worried about my heart, so I've known that. So I made the phone call, and the lady picked up the phone and she said, "Heart failure clinic." And I did think to myself, I think we could work on the name.
Yes, I agree.
I knew that they were monitoring my heart. And just those kind of things, that I think is psychology, the psychology of language, of how we as professionals, oh yeah, it's the heart failure clinic. What does that feel like for the person who then suddenly realizes that someone thinks you've got heart failure? Anything like that. I bet people have had experiences like that.
Yeah, I think something like, just if somebody sighs, I think everybody knows I supported our daughter through her leukemia treatment. And just when you're walking through the corridors or you go in to see her, someone gives that irritated look and you think, I didn't say anything, and you just want to disappear. Yeah, just little things like that about your presence as a member of staff. Perhaps that's a bit old school, but it needs to come back. It needs to come back. So language is key. Yes, Jana, we totally agree with you. So I think it would be wonderful if you do the survey, or when you do the survey, if you could put the word GEM in capital letters at the bottom comments box of that survey. It would be wonderful. And as Cancer Services Partnership, we will keep prompting you with all our updates. Be rest assured. So thank you so much, Nancy, and I hope we get to meet in person very soon. So thank you. Thank you. So we're going to move on now to Fran Williams is joining us for 5 minutes. So Fran, would you like to unmute yourself, or if someone could unmute Fran? And there is a slide also from Fran then, please. So welcome, Fran. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you very much. And slightly embarrassingly, I can hear something ringing over in the background, but thanks so much. There are slides, they are very busy, and I'm conscious that I haven't got much time. So I'm very happy if you don't show them, or perhaps they can go out with the minutes. So entirely up to you. So a very brief overview of where we are this particular project. I'm very thanks to Jana for the shout out. As brief background, if everybody's aware that in this area we have been really lucky to work with Jack and her team at Southampton. About 3 years ago now, they launched WESFIT, which was very much a prehabilitation trial aimed at people that were going to have curative treatment. So very much that rehabilitation on premise that you wouldn't run a marathon if you had gained that day going through a major surgery. it's going to cause the same amount of trauma and stress on your body. So it had 3 arms around looking at exercise, nutrition, and psychological support. And it was recruiting and being evaluated really, really well. And we were trying to prove that actually by supporting people at this time, the impact would grow, just be great, not just in terms of life, but actually length of stay in hospital. That's what we're looking to actually prove. And they are just working on the findings around that. Then COVID hit, and because Wesfit was face-to-face out of gyms, we had to stop it.
Fran,
And patients, yeah.
Could you turn your video off? It's really difficult to hear you, and sometimes if you
is it? Yes, of course I can.
Fine, it's just the connectivity. That's all. It's not. No, it's just one of those things.
It's not ideal. I'm sorry.
Oh no,
is that better?
That is better. That's brilliant. It's a little trick we've learned. Thank you.
So, as I say, we closed Wesfit, and patients were devastated, sort of coming back saying, how can you do this to us now at a time when we really need this? Working in partnership with Macmillan, very quickly, SafeFit was launched. And it was the same sort of element. So looking at the emotional support and basic nutritional support, very much a unit level that would be delivered by a level workforce. So the fitness instructors who had been trained up in the cancer referral, but also with cancer support workers. That went live, and this was going to be based on self-referral into the programme for anybody with a cancer diagnosis at whatever point in the journey they were. So it could be a suspected cancer going right through to palliative care patients. And what surprised us, I think, was that we expected people with low level of need and high motivation would refer themselves. And actually, although most patients obviously most people had high motivation to be able to access the service, there were really high levels of need identified by using the Macmillan HNA, holistic need. And what we found then was that 1 or 2 interactions with the fitness instructors, that level of need. So just by giving people this outlet to have assessment and one-to-one, she reduced that level of need. SafeFit has recruited at a phenomenal speed, virtually got the fully powered 1,100 patients through. So looking to do in Wessex, how we could actually move fit the trial with all the governance and support that and move it to safe service that could become into a pathway. While we were thinking that, across that Macmillan are working with social foundation to look at palliative care and end of life. And we thought, wouldn't this be a great idea if we could access some of this money to look at patients with cancer, seem to be in their last year of life, and pilot it with that cohort, because if you get it right with that cohort of patients, actually it's something that we could then would roll out across the whole of the cancer pathway, as SafeFit has. In terms of looking at it, which is important if to build a service that is sustainable, we would show. So we're looking at reduced emergency admissions into hospital. And when we started looking at that, we think that we can really make an impact here with cancer patients, but we will also look at other cohorts of patients. What we will show that we'll have a that's fit for patients at any point in their pathway, but also the long-term conditions, so failure, other illnesses in their last year of life, so with palliative care. The big ask for me to you that we would really like to work with you to develop this service. We know what we think it's going to look like, but it needs to be fit for purpose. It needs to be embedded along other services in this area. We're looking to pilot it with North and Mid Ham CCG initially, so very much the Hampshire hospitals area. And I just feel it would be really to work with you. I totally with what Nancy said about the psychology of language. When you see at the minute, it's titled A Prehabilitation Pathway for Palliative, which just doesn't sit right with me. But we need to work with you to make sure that we get this language right. So I'm going to be sending some dates out for the first 2 weeks to get this done in December, because it would be nice to actually start recruiting, pulling the service in the new year. If any of you would like to help us work on this, that would be amazing. We're linking with Yana in the palliative care in Hampshire hospitals, St Michael's, so quite a good cohort of the initial, but we need to balance that out by having it more really people of cancer, carers. So yes, that is the ask from me really.
Okay, thank you, Fran. And as always, we will be sharing all of this. And something's just popped into my head. We've got one of our bi-monthly meetings in January, second Wednesday of January. So how about you coming back and speaking more about that? And we'll do whatever we can to get as many people as involved. And please, everybody here right now, spread the word. Your voice is needed.
Absolutely, because the more visible we are, the more likely it is to succeed.
Absolutely.
I think we seem to be having all these lots of things we've talked for years, quite honestly, but it feels that the bits of the jigsaw are coming closer and closer together. And as long as nobody trips up and drops the box, it will all work and will become embedded and seen as so key.
Yeah, absolutely.
Patients and carers right across the path.
Yeah, thank you. We totally support you, Fran, as Cancer Services. And we'll share the dates.
But amazing work. Thank you all for your support. And I will send out an ask through Eileen, Jackie.
Okay, then. Thank you, Fran. Thank you. And,
thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks for turning your video off. It did help a little bit, but it was still a little bit of a challenge. Not your fault. That's the beauty of the internet. Or not. So
I did thank you though.
Yeah, that's brilliant. We will share widely. So we're going to move now to have an overview of the benefits of complementary therapies. Now, Julie Walsh has come to join us, and at the moment Julie works for Hampshire hospitals in one of the care teams as a therapist, and she is obviously practicing as a therapist herself. So Julie, over to you.
Hello everybody. I think I've met quite a few of you. I'd like to say a personal thank you to Frankie, Eileen and Jackie for inviting me to speak at this forum today. I feel very privileged to be able to do so and to share really my passion of therapies. I did want to mention just a little bit about the evidence of complementary therapy. I think it's very, very important, although I'm so passionate about what I do as a therapist, and over the years that I've worked with cancer patients, cancer clients, over 7 years now, and I literally have seen thousands of clients and patients. And so I have witnessed firsthand the benefits of what these complementary therapies actually do for the patients. And I just cannot really put into words my passion for, you know, actually seeing what they do and the evidence. And I've got a slide up there which I appreciate is very difficult to actually see, but perhaps when you look at this afterwards, I am very much about wanting to validate and evaluate indeed the therapies. I think that's very, very important. And I have looked a little bit because I've done some training up at the Christie and indeed too at the Royal Marsden. The Christie particularly have got quite a lot of evidence. They've done a lot of research, done a lot of papers. You've got the two clinical leads there in complementary therapy, the wonderful Dr. Peter McCarrath, who I don't know if any of you are familiar with, and Dr. Jackie Stringer, that have put an awful lot of time and effort into research, and they've completed and published PhD projects on aromatherapy with haematology patients and comparing the therapeutic outcomes of reflexology. And indeed, they've also done a lot of random controlled trials and pilot evaluations, in-house evaluations and research projects. I think it's vital and invaluable to validate this. And also the College of Medicine and Integrated Health, they too are looking in at the research, and they've said despite there being 271,000 articles relating to complementary therapy on PubMed, there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of funding into the research of complementary, CAM as they refer to them, complementary and alternative medicine. So I think that's something that they're keen to change. And I personally feel that's so important. But one thing I felt today when I was asked to speak, what could be more valuable than for me actually to speak to one of my lovely clients who I saw, who came to see me when I worked at the Breast Cancer Haven in Titchfield, which sadly is no longer there. I know quite a few people have heard of it, but I would like to speak about this today. And so I've really got great pleasure to introduce my lovely client, Kerry Gunner, who's here with me today. So what I thought would be nice, rather than just me speak and Kerry speak, I thought it would be lovely to actually, for me to openly ask Kerry some questions, to ask her about her own experience and how she felt that complementary therapies benefited her. So thank you, Kerry, for joining us. So first of all, Kerry, can I ask you, how did you feel when you were first diagnosed with cancer?
All I can say is, I guess my mind was like racing with thoughts, really. You know, you have that prospect of dying and sort of facing death, you know, the long aggressive treatment ahead, and also that sort of breaking news to loved ones and having to deal with their reactions. Just basically just a very anxious time, to be honest.
Okay, thank you. What was your experience of the surgery and the chemotherapy and the radiotherapy?
At the time, I guess it felt relentless. You know, it was over 6 months in total, or around 6 months. You know, the op, the chemo, the radiotherapy. I just felt the chemotherapy just sort of felt quite, you know, toxic. You know, you're scared every time it's going in. You know, you're not sure how you're going to feel afterwards. I felt sore. You know, I lost my hair, and it was just emotionally and physically sort of draining, really. I knew it had to be done. I knew the surgery, the chemotherapy, and that had to be done. I knew it was essential, but it didn't sort of deal with the impact, really, that the diagnosis and treatment for cancer sort of had on my sort of mind and mental well-being, to be honest.
Okay, thank you. So how did you actually manage your symptoms, Kerry?
So at the time I was diagnosed, I was really lucky that the Breast Cancer Haven in Titchfield had opened. And I would say it was my saviour. It sort of provided me with that calm, protective, like welcoming environment, made me sort of feel safe. And I just felt that therapies treated my symptoms holistically.
Okay, so to be more specific, what were the actual benefits for you personally from complementary therapies?
The therapies that I had, the main ones that really helped were the aromatherapy massage, Indian head massage, and the reflexology. And I was just saying that it sort of it brought back that vital connection with touch that was a non-clinical reason for, you know, like normally in the medical and the operation side, it's a lot more clinical, but it brought back that vital connection with touch, which felt sort of comforting and restorative, really. And as I sort of was saying, really, it sort of it makes you feel like it's washing away the toxicity of the chemo by having these sort of restorative treatments, and just brought a sense of calmness and peacefulness and well-being in my mind and body.
Oh, good. I'm pleased to hear that. So, and to summarise, really now, about the whole experience, how would you summarise?
I think that everything about complementary therapy just helped take my mind off the worrying thoughts, you know, the fears, the stresses, the anxieties, and almost stopped those racing thoughts, you know, while the treatments were going on and beyond, and just helped like energize me, gave me that positive feeling that everything would be okay. And I really believe that the sort of positivity that I got from the treatments sort of helped me cope with my diagnosis, and almost helped in that healing process that, you know, for both my mind and body. And I had such a calming, it had such a calming effect that I'm sure it helped boost my immune system to help fight the disease. And I just feel that the medical and surgical treatments, although vital and essential, they're only sort of part, you know, they're the beginning of the process, really. But complementary therapies should sort of are vital and sort of working alongside the medical and surgical sort of interventions. And I would always advocate anyone facing cancer diagnosis and treatment, I would always advocate complementary therapies.
Oh,
yeah, as part of their holistic treatment.
That's wonderful, Kerry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience with everybody.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And I think, you know, everyone, as you will agree, you know, how Kerry has described everything, it's in her own personal way. I've heard a lot of feedback like Kerry's from the wonderful clients that I've seen over the years, and it just fills me with so much hope, you know, for these people, to enable them to make a faster recovery from what they're going through with their diagnosis, their actual reaction to the treatments. And I think there has been some evidence written that, you know, people, the symptom control, the symptom management, the intervention of complementary therapies can really, really make a difference to people. And it's just so exciting that Hampshire Health are introducing these into the service, and I think primarily for the patients, so that patients will have the benefit and be able to experience all of the wonderful therapies combined. So yes, so I hope you know, I hope if anyone's got any questions after, please feel free to put them over, but thank you.
No, thank you so much. That was really, really powerful. Actually hearing from Kerry, as you know, obviously what you've had to say, Julie, absolutely, and about the evidence, which is really important, but also hearing from Kerry, lived experience is so important. It has a massive impact to people to hear what it's truly like. So thank you. If there's a few comments in the comments box, so what we'll do, if that's okay, we'll move to a break, and then are you okay going through that, Julie, and responding to those?
Yes,
a massive amount of, you know, complimentary, thank you so much, compliments to you for doing it and absolutely presenting in that style. Absolutely brilliant, as I've already said. So please do respond to all those comments. That would be really great. So we're going to move to a break now. So Ben, if you could put on our slideshow and let me have a look at the time. So I think we'll come back at 11.
I just do this.
38, 11:38. I had to count on my fingers then, my brain didn't work. Okay, we'll see you back at 11:38 precisely. Well, I think it's time we all come back together. So, Ben, thank you for the slideshow. And thank you to all the organisations that actually contributed to that slideshow. We thought it'd be really invaluable for you to see all the work that goes on to support people living with and beyond cancer. There's lots and lots of comments going in the chat box. We will share the slideshow from the breaks with you all as well, and that'll go on our website. And also Martin has made a comment. I'm just going to take back to that just to reassure you all. Cancer Services Partnership are putting together lots of local therapists who can obviously cover this area, that people, we obviously don't advocate because we can't do that, but obviously we will be signposting. So that will all be available on our website, and that'll be very visible. And of course, we will share all of that with you in the usual way that we do. So we're going to move swiftly on, and I'd like to invite Lisa to do one of her little short sessions again before we move on to actually hearing from Lisa about everything that she does. I think is the best to say. So Lisa, without further ado, over to you.
Thank you, Eileen, and hello again. This time we're actually going to do a little energy medicine technique, and I call this the anxiety buster. And working with energy medicine techniques, it taps into those sort of meridian lines, which are sort of our internal circuitry, where energy flows through our body. And we're actually going to use our hands again, as before. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is if you could just put your hands together. What this does, this little technique that can be done, as I say, anytime, anywhere, what it does is it actually quietens down that fight, flight or freeze response that we can sometimes feel when we're in situations where we can feel very overwhelmed. So this is a really good little technique to have in your toolbox. So here goes, hands together. Just rub your hands together until you feel a nice little bit of warmth. And what this is doing is it's activating those polarities that are actually on either side of your hands, but specifically as we're rubbing our palms together, this is where we're going to get that nice warmth. So hopefully you can feel that. Then what I'm going to get you to do, we're actually going, if I show you first, if I can actually get you, sorry, I'm not sitting back far enough, if I can get you just to rest the heels of your hands onto your cheekbones in a moment. As I say, I'm going to show you. Then your fingers will rest on your forehead and your thumbs will be either side of your head. So let me just show you what I'm going to ask you to do. So we've rubbed our hands together. We're going to place our heels of our hands onto our cheekbones, cup over our eyes, and then place our fingers onto our forehead. And then our thumbs can actually sit either side. So whatever feels comfortable for you, but essentially you're actually closing your eyes if it feels comfortable, and you're creating this little safe haven for you to step into whenever you have those feelings of overwhelm, or when everything just feels a little bit too much. And while you're doing this, take some nice, nourishing, gentle, deep breaths in and out as before. Again, whatever feels comfortable for you, breathe in through your nose or breathe in through your mouth. Take a nice deep breath or a shorter breath. There's no right or wrong here, whatever feels comfortable for you. And you can do this for as much time as you have. So if you've had to sort of take yourself into the bathroom of your workplace because you're finding that conversation with your manager a little bit too much, go and sit yourself in a cubicle. Just take a few moments out, do this little exercise, or do it for a little bit longer if you have the time. So a few more breaths. And it just invites our senses, by having our eyes closed, by having our fingers on these points on our face as well, just to slow down and just to relax, and that we are safe. and to give those cues to our body that we don't need to run away from that saber-toothed tiger that it thinks we have running after us. So a few more breaths. And then with your hands still cupped over your face or over your eyes, just open your eyes gently so you get a bit more used to the light that you're going to experience. And just very gently take your hands away from your eyes and just rest. And I hope that helps to actually give you a little tool to help whenever you're feeling those feelings of overwhelm.
Thank you, Lisa. It certainly will. That's one that I'll start using. Thank you.
Good.
So over to you for your session, please.
Thank you. And I want to echo, which many of the speakers have already said, thank you so much for inviting me along today. I feel very honoured to be part of this forum today, and also to hear all the wonderful sort of projects and everything relating to sort of, you know, what we're doing in this area. So thank you. So just to introduce myself formally, after sort of giving you those little breathwork sessions and energy medicine techniques to start, my name is Lisa Nightingale, and my company name is And Breathe. I actually chose that before breathwork became so popular, but it still gives you that that sense of and breathe, and just taking that moment just to stop and just to have that time out for yourselves, which we don't often do in our busy days. And what I do is I work as a soul practitioner and an intuitive guide. And the way that I do my work is I blend energy work techniques such as Reiki. I'm also an Access Consciousness Vase practitioner. I do Indian head massage and gentle massage, breath work, and I have a few other little modalities tucked away in my toolkit as I work in a very intuitive way with my clients. Reiki is my main practice because I just love the fact that it's so gentle. And there's, you know, you can lay your hands on people, or you can lay your hands above, depending on obviously how they're feeling. But it's also, as I say, very, very gentle, but very effective way of working with people. But I work very much in the way of creating a safe, calm place for my clients just to come along, just to be. You know, they have no, in that moment, whether it be a half an hour or an hour session or longer, they can sort of close the door and know that they don't have any anyone asking them any questions. They don't have to speak about anything in particular. They can just be. And how often do we actually allow ourselves to do that? So this is very much part of my work. I've had my own cancer journey experience in 2014 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I'm very passionate about empowering all people that are affected in that area. So whether it be yourself as the patient, whether it be your family members, healthcare workers, everyone, I want to empower to give yourselves that time of self-care. And as somebody that works with energy, it's very much about, we all are very, very, I suppose, aware of our physical bodies because we can touch it, we can feel it. And we're very aware of our minds because, you know, we think thoughts. So that's a thing. We know that that happens. But we are not so aware of our energy bodies. And, you know, the three are really important. The three work together. And, you know, we go to the gym, you know, we work out, so our energy, our physical body's off it. We intellectualize, we learn things. So our brain, our thoughts are supported. But not many of us are aware that we have this energy force within us that is very important for us to be aware of, and for us also to give the same amount of care to. So you may be asking, what is my energy body? So within our system, we actually, well, actually, just to start off with, it's just to explain, we are all made of energy. Sorry, I just wanted to say that from the very beginning. because I think sometimes people are like, well, what's that about then? You know, and the very famous physicist Albert Einstein, and I shall quote unquote, said, everything is energy, and that is all to it, all there is to it. So enough said, really. If Albert Einstein said that, you know, we're all made up of energy. And from a very layman's point of view, just to explain that everything, you know, the chair that you're sitting on, which feels solid, us as human beings, the tree outside, we're all made out of energy. And there's tiny, tiny, tiny little particles which are vibrating at a very high frequency. And what happens sometimes is that within that space, within those tiny particles, there is space, and energy can sometimes get stuck. And energy can then stagnate if it's not moving through your body properly. And then what happens is that can be the symptom of feeling a little out of sorts. You might have pain somewhere, or more seriously, you may actually get quite unwell if this sort of life force, this energy within us gets stuck. So it's really important to actually have things like Reiki, yoga, acupuncture. Obviously, there's so many wonderful other complementary reflexology. Don't want to forget you, Julie. All these wonderful things out there that help to maintain our energy flow, our energy bodies. And within our energy bodies, we actually have something called chakras, which you may or may not be familiar with. And these are essentially sort of like our circuits, which help to keep the flow sort of going through at a nice rate, so that we are feeling at our most healthy and at our most, at our highest well-being. So for myself as an energy worker, what I like to do is encourage people, as I said, to take that time out. And I think that we sometimes feel that it's quite selfish to have time for ourselves. We have lots of things that we have to do during the course of our busy days, but actually sort of like having a complementary therapy, for example, can sometimes feel a little indulgent. And yet, by actually keeping that lovely flow, as I mentioned, of your energy running through your systems, which then support your physical body and your mental physicality too, it's so important that the three work in unison together. So actually taking time out for yourself to do that is not indulgent. It's not selfish. It's, if anything, selfless, because what happens when you support your energy body and you're feeling at your most well, and your cup is overflowing. We're taught to, sort of have our cup full, but actually when you're a caregiver and when you're going through the experience of surgery or chemotherapy or radiotherapy, when you're a cancer, when you're going through the cancer treatment, it's so important to give yourself and the people that are around you that time to really have your energy from a point of overflowing. And if you are a caregiver in those situations as well, it means that when you are tired or if you're depleted, and obviously your natural instinct is to give, unfortunately, what you're actually giving is depleted energy, because your energy is depleted. So you're then giving depleted energy, which actually isn't any good for anybody. But when you're coming from a place of energetic strength, then what naturally happens is that actually flows and ripples out to everybody else around you. So in some ways, by taking that different stance, perhaps, that by taking that time out to have whatever, there's so many different complementary therapies to choose from, choose one that suits you and actually have however long you're able to yourself. It supports you emotionally, physically, but ultimately it allows the body, the energy body, to rebalance, to encourage the body to get rid of any toxins that are perhaps in the body too. And, for those of you that have obviously, you're having medication, there's side effects to that, the treatments, there's side effects to that. So the complementary therapies, and especially the energy work that I do, actually allows the body and encourages the body to actually get rid of these toxins within the body, but in a very gentle and a very calming way. And the way that, for example, the Reiki works is it gets our bodies down to that lovely really sort of almost just about to go to sleep moment. So your brain waves slow down. I mean, let's face it, when you're in these sort of moments of stress and fear, which we go through, as you've mentioned already, some of the speakers, about the 3 different phases of when you're first diagnosed through to, the treatment, through to then, being discharged. All these different places create these emotions within us. And I think sometimes, we're not always encouraged to feel these emotions. And on that point as well, I also feel that men have perhaps had a really sort of rough time with that, because let's face it, in terms of being in tune with your emotions, expressing your emotions, being allowed to feel your emotions hasn't always been advocated as a very manly or a very masculine thing to do. But whatever gender you identify with, it's so important that you allow yourself to actually check in, as I did in the initial breathing sort of little activity with you, where you just sort of check in with yourself and go, how am I actually feeling? And just giving yourself that moment, because we're so busy that we don't listen to the messages that our body is generally trying to tell us. And those messages are for our highest well-being and our health. And when I work with my clients, this is, when they're in that moment of quietness and I'm tuning into their vibrations, I'm then able to interpret to them what their body is trying to tell them. And if we all just take those moments to stop and listen, then we will hear those messages that our body is trying to give us too. So the trick is, and it takes a bit of practice, but the trick is to feel first. And the reason I touched my middle chest here, if you can see me, is because this is where our heart is. And our heart on its physical level actually creates this amazing electromagnetic current. And there's an amazing author called Anodea Judith, who sort of blends Western and Eastern medicine and techniques together, and she's also a great yoga teacher. And she has a lovely way of explaining on a more sort of modern level as to how the sort of energy body fits in. So try and imagine then that your physical body is the hardware, so the laptop, the computer, and then imagine that our thoughts, our brain, is actually the software. And then the actual energy that runs through our system, this beautiful life force, this beautiful electromagnetic current, is the actual electricity that runs through. And that being my point, that we need all 3, because without each of these different elements, they wouldn't function. So equally, all 3 are very important. But as I said at the beginning, we're not so aware of our energy bodies. So I really hope that you will become a little bit more aware and check in with yourself and ask yourself, how am I feeling on an energetic level? And give yourselves those times just to be quiet, just to sort of have those moments of calm and check in with yourself, and actually, put those needs first. And even if it's just 5 minutes a day, just give yourself those moments, just to not be selfish, but to be selfless, and have that awareness of how you're feeling for your own well-being. And then, as I said before, if you can do that and really check in with yourself and really come from that place of strength on an energetic level, then everything that you give out to everybody else, and let's face it, I'm sure that everybody else that's here today cares about everyone else around them. So put yourself first. It starts with you first, and then everything else that you want to happen in your life will ripple out, because you're coming from a place of strength. So I hope that's been helpful today.
It has, Lisa, thank you. And I'm taking on board everything you've just said. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Everybody will agree with me. That was absolutely perfect. Thank you. Any comments, please pop them in the chat box. That would be really helpful, your thoughts of what Lisa's just shared. And we'll move on to Ian. Sorry to put you on the spot, Ian. If we could move on to your little talk, that would be great. and then we can come back to Nina if we can give us some help there. So thank you. Ian, if that's all right, it would be brilliant.
Thanks for that, Nina. I nearly nipped off to the loo just then, so that was a good chance to pull me up. I've just been going through my slides here and realising that perhaps there's a collection of people who I've never met before, and then there's some that I've known for a very long time. I've known Eileen, I think, about nearly 30 years, Eileen, and some people much more recently. And I've got a presentation. I've been given the honour of picking through my own slides, so if there are any questions, please pop them up in the chat as we go along, and I can answer those questions as we go. I've been in healthcare about 40 years, and 29 of those years I've been in North Hampshire. So I've either been working in the NHS in Surrey or in private practice in Hampshire. And I've been working with GP consultant referrals, primarily as an osteopath over the last 25 years, but also in radiology prior to that. So I'm going to put my slide up now, and we're away. What I've also got on the slide is the logo here of the Art Cancer Charity, Cancer Centre charity, which hasn't been mentioned today, and you'll hear more about over the next few weeks or months. We're working with Yana, who's the energy behind this and is doing a wonderful job. This is a unit that's going to be on site at the hospital, on the radiotherapy side, and is perhaps going to be producing or providing some of those little gems that Nancy mentioned earlier. Very quick profile. I've got a mixture of complementary alternative for integrative medicine, as well as mainstream healthcare and conventional medicine. I trained as a radiographer in New Zealand. Will be strongly supporting the New Zealand cricket team this afternoon as they beating. Came to London and trained as an osteopath. I was treated for a spinal injury as a young man by an osteopath playing rugby, and it's my sport in my life. Trained again as an osteopath, as an acupuncturist in London, which I've been performing now for about a quarter of a century. I teach at one of the universities in London, and I have a degree in evidence-based healthcare, which I apply in pretty much everything I do. And I think the emphasis you would have seen today already is that there is a closer and closer connection between integrative and complementary healthcare and conventional healthcare, because research is getting better. And as research improves, more research is done, and it's a self-perpetuating process. I am going to talk just very briefly about the history of acupuncture, just to give it some context, because it is relevant. Acupuncture was really no mention of acupuncture prior to about 100 BC, which still makes it 2,000 years old, but it's not as old as perhaps being claimed. And its own history in China certainly has been checkered. It was banned from all healthcare in 1882, and then it was outlawed in China in 1929, only to be reinstated in 1949. So it's had a checkered history itself. In fact, President Xi is looking at trying to understand traditional Chinese medicine in a modern scientific context at the moment, and he's authorized that this year. However, alongside that, acupuncture as a technique has taken grip within the Western world, and there's about 4 million acupuncture visits in the UK alone, about a third of which are done in the NHS. There's about 10 million acupuncture visits so that's in the UK, and about 10 million acupuncture visits in the US. And that's happened because the research has improved dramatically and has been picked up by NICE and the National Institute of Health Research here in the UK. There are articles in the BMJ and Nature magazine, which are pretty robust journals, and the National Institute of Health, which is the largest medical body in the US, a list of conditions that it feels are it's applicable, particularly in cancer therapy, particularly patients suffering with pain or nausea with their cancer therapy. The wonderful Royal Marsden has within its own pain department has a delightful lady called Jackie Filchi, who is a anaesthetist and medical acupuncture. She runs her own medical acupuncture department. I'm going up to spend a day with her in a couple of weeks. And the research is coming through at an accelerating rate on it. These are something that was done recently was a feasibility trial actually teaching radiotherapy radiographers to dispense acupuncture to patients who are having therapy to support them there and then. So what happens often is a real disconnect between the patient receiving treatment and follow-up interventions that may help with their quality of life and the efficacy of the intervention. Flushes, or in the US they call them hot flashes, and there's quite clear evidence that you can have dramatic improvement in hot flashes. Migraine, pain management. This is the very first systematic review looking at pain management using acupuncture and palliative care, and that was only done this year. So we are fairly late to the party in terms of good, robust systematic reviews, which are the highest level of evidence that you can obtain. And what we're particularly interested in at the moment is looking at prostate cancer. Someone referred to cancers in men earlier. This is going to be a big focus locally, as well as breast cancer. Anything that's on the symptoms must be real. But I think our impression with acupuncture traditionally has been a little bit, well, it's very nice, stick some pins in someone and see what happens. And I think that's exactly what was happening. No one quite understood the mechanism or the physiology. And I want you to think just for a moment what might happen to you if something is pushed through your skin, like a pin or a knife, or if you're gardening, a thorn, or if you're attacked by a wild animal. There's a whole series of physiological events that happen that affect our central nervous system and our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And the body's job and the brain's job is to keep us. And when something gets entered through the skin, there's an alarm bell that rings, and it stimulates our central nervous system. And there's a collection of chemicals that we know about get released, and probably lots more that we don't know about. Certainly, there's a bunch of chemicals that are being seen to release that have an effect on our pain management. And once pain, particularly chronic pain, becomes established, it changes within our central nervous system. And and those changes happen over time because of the exposure to that stimuli. You can retrain these with various techniques, which include complementary therapies, integrative health, acupuncture, deep tissue massage, pressure point therapy, because all of these things will have an influence on our central nervous system. And then, of course, there's the acupuncture points that everybody talks about. These acupuncture points essentially are lined up along nervous pathways, and traditionally the Chinese thought was sure that there are meridians or lines, and these lines match very nicely with our peripheral nervous system. And if you were to think of the acupuncture points as being the tube stops on the London Underground, these are specific points that appear to have a bigger effect in the way in which your body responds to having a small, relatively painless pin put through the skin. And it's being validated because you now can scan people's brains while you're acupuncturing them and look at different parts of the brain that actually are stimulated or suppressed, which may help override or desensitize parts of our brain. There's a bit of our brain called our sensory motor center, and this is where brain pain is perceived and muscle contraction is initiated, and most things hurt. You get quite profound muscle spasm around it and muscle contraction, which adds to the pain that we're already experiencing. And if we can reduce that, then you reduce people's pain experience. And as we all know, symptoms experienced by people living with cancer are complex and unique and are very, very common. And these may be as a direct result of the therapy that you're having, the surgery that you needed earlier on, or the radiotherapy, or the chemotherapy, or the medication you may require. And this should never change because these are proven, tried and tested interventions. However, there are secondary effects as well of treatments, and that's waiting in waiting rooms for hours, commuting to appointments, fatigue, reduced mobility, emotional impacts, and all of these will have an effect on the way in which people are feeling and managing their cancer journey. And then, of course, on top of these, people going through this journey also have the daily aches and pains that we all are suffering of, age-related changes, busy lives, headache, migraine, hurty toes, small accidents at home. All of these things can diminish people's quality of life. I've used the word integrative here a couple of times. I think you would have noticed this. When you look at a lot of the research now, a lot's done in the US, and they have moved away from the term complementary into integrative health for whatever reason. So when you're looking at research and you see the word integrative, you can swap these words in and out. You know that tens of millions of people seek integrative complementary therapies throughout the world. We know that treatments are never ever delivered as a sole intervention, and most therapists, as you will have heard today, when they deliver their therapy, they're also interacting with the patient, giving them emotional support, helping signpost other therapies that may be of benefit to them. It's possible that the patient that you see in front of you is not in the right place, that they need to be seeing and talking to someone else. So being referred on to the services that Nancy's providing, or the services that Liz provides, or working within the Arts Centre. Hopefully we can get these cross referrals going once we're up and running. Jana asked me if I could do a little self-help thing while we're here, and I'll paste this link at the bottom into the chat bar at the side so that you can link to it. The Sloan Kettering Cancer Centre is the world's oldest and largest private cancer centre in New York. It's an impressive facility, and I wanted to use that in particular. They have an extensive website, and on the website there's a number of videos, and this particular video talks about acupressure for nausea and vomiting, and it can be very helpful, and you can do this as a self-help technique. So please have a look at this link in your spare time and give it a go. Quick summary. I've belted through this fairly quickly on purpose, but summary. There is a growing scientific basis for all integrative and complementary healthcare, and in particular with acupuncture. There's a large volume of that, and it's still not fantastic. And what we do know is the gap between traditional medicine and Western medical, or traditional acupuncture and Western medical acupuncture, the gap is closing. It's far from closed, but it's closing. Lots of commonality between acupuncture points and treatment doses and treatment frequencies. What we do know also is with integrative and therapy, about half of all cancer patients are accessing these. So providing these isn't a new thing. This has been happening for a considerable time. It's very, very widely distributed around the world. Nearly a third of all acupuncture is provided on the NHS. Always it's delivered in combination with your conventional treatment, not instead of. You would never accept that. So acupuncture therapy within this context is always delivered in combination with your therapy. And like all interventions, is never risk-free. Small risk with acupuncture will include bruising or bleeding, the same as popping anything through your skin. Some patients have quite a profound response, and they feel a little drowsy afterwards and probably sleep pretty well that night. Some have experienced nausea, but it's not sure whether that's the direct effect of the acupuncture. Sometimes meeting a new person, having treatment, can be a little overwhelming on that first occasion, and in fact, nausea and dizziness seems to happen more on the first visit than on subsequent. And like everything in medicine, you need to give the proviso that you can exacerbate pre-existing conditions, and this is rare, but it does happen. So I hope that's been a bit of a just a reasonable summary of what acupuncture involves. I use it in conjunction with what I do as an osteopath. I see the two work very well together. I also spend a lot of time talking with my patients and trying to ensure they understand the origin of some of their symptoms, how they may be able to self-help. Jana spoke earlier about exercise, and again, the lady that also spoke about exercise, I've forgotten her name. The value of activity and exercise shouldn't be underestimated. In fact, there's an argument that if we poured more money into encouraging people to get active, we would see a dramatic reduction in many of the healthcare burdens that we see through the NHS outside cancer, as well as including cancer. I hope that's been helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. It really seriously has. I think it's given us a really good overview of how acupuncture can really support conventional therapy, obviously. us all having our treatment, but then all these other things that can really help us. So thank you very much. Now there's a little comment in there. I think it's a comment more than anything from Jackie. And she actually, I believe, had some acupuncture and it really did help. So after Ian, we're going to go back to Nina. And I hope you've got all your technology sorted out. I know Ben's been helping you, Nina. So if you're able to unmute yourself, and over to you. We'll have another go.
As Eileen said, my name's Nina, and I'm owner and therapist at Soul Sisters Holistic Therapies based in Basingstoke. The therapies I provide are aromatherapy, sports and clinical massage, reflexology and Reiki. And for this very tiny little presentation I'm going to do, please forgive me because I'm going to be reading off a script because I'm very good at going off piste, and to keep it succinct, I thought reading was the best. So here we go. Massage and the power of touch. I would like to start with something that Till Luchau wrote as a foreword in Rachel Fairweather's and Megan Murray's book, Massage Fusion, the Jing method for treatment of chronic pain. The impulse to ease discomfort with touch is an instinctual one, whether the discomfort is physical, mental, or emotional. The instinctual urge is likely connected to some of the deepest behavior that defines us and our kindred mammals. The touching, holding, grasping, and physicality that literally connects us to one another as a baby and parent, as littermates, as lovers, as friend to friend, or as a healer and healed. Touch has the power to comfort and calm, and this sets the stage for healing of all sorts, whether we are speaking biologically, physiologically, socially, or spiritually. For me, touch is about connection, and this starts as soon as I have a conversation with my client. Someone once said, before you massage the body of a client, be patient to learn their story. But once you learn their story, you will also come to know their body. This is so true, and yet at the same time continually evolves through a client's treatment sessions. One of the reasons I say it continually evolves is that we can carry so much around with us, not just physically, but also emotionally. From the book, The Heart of Listening, Milne writes, approach touching the client with the utmost respect for their sanctity, that is with reverence. This form of touch allows for transformational change to occur at a level of being that might take years to reach in non-touching therapies. Taking the time to listen to my clients and hear their story is so important to me, because when you see the bigger picture of what is happening in their life, you can start to connect on many different levels as you learn of their story. Every time you touch your client, you're not only making an intervention with their skin, muscles and joints, but also with the delicate mind-body balance of the spirit and psyche. Touch, whether it is a hug or an intentional informed touch, sends a signal to our brain, which triggers the release of oxytocin, as well as other happy hormones, serotonin and dopamine. It is also proven to lower the hormone cortisol, which is released when the body is responding to stress. There are many studies showing the benefits regular massage can have in combating the everyday stresses that affect so many of us. The massage techniques I use depend on what the client needs. It is important that my client also knows that they're in full control of their treatment, and if they need me to stop at any time to change the temperature, to move, or for anything else, they only have to say. This is their treatment, and it needs to be enjoyable for them as well as being effective. My treatments start with a gentle laying on of my hands over the drapes. This introduces my physical touch onto their body, and time is spent adjusting and feeling into this connection. Being still at this point is important, especially for a first treatment. I encourage my client to take 3 slow, deep breaths, and as they do so, I do too, after which I invite them to breathe normally again. I then introduce my touch to the whole body. This is also over the drapes. The touch can be as light as falling leaves or with more depth as I sink into their tissues, starting at the top of the neck and working my way down to their feet. This allows the whole body to feel some attention, but also starts to interact with the nervous system. Even this early in the treatment there can be an emotional response as the whole mind, body and spirit starts to feel heard and acknowledged. This listening touch continues through the whole treatment, receiving information and delivering response, following the body's call to create space, release and hold space. Creating space through techniques like myofascial release in its many forms of indirect and direct movements like compression, cross-hand stretch and skin rolling, to name a few. These techniques are used without any oil or wax to enable the therapist to connect and interact with the fascial connective tissues, superficial and deep. Working solely with the fascia can be a treatment in itself. When connection is made and movement is introduced, you then have not just created space for the structures to move freely, but that whole process encourages the body to release and physically and emotionally. From the fascial work, I then include more soothing work, but this time with a massage wax or oil, using more Swedish techniques like effleurage, creating a continuous movement of varying depths, continuing the invitation for the parasympathetic nervous system to respond and rest and digest. Adding heat by way of thermal stones just brings another element of nurturing and comfort to the treatments, and it also feels good. I always finish my treatments with some still work, either by holding the feet or cradling their head in my hands, allowing the client's mind, body and spirit to acknowledge the treatment received and any changes introspectively that have occurred. Whether I'm working clinically or providing a relaxation treatment, it is always nice to share with your clients some self-care techniques. This is not only empowers them with their continued self-care, but also empowers them in their treatment and self-care journey. So if there's any time, I'd like to invite you all to take part in some audience participation. Sitting comfortably in your chair, I invite you all to gently place your left hand over your right hand onto your left hand. You may instinctively take a deep breath or sigh. What are your hands saying? Are they warm or cold? What are the textures you can feel? While you take this time to connect to your heart space or belly, I invite you to close your eyes while I read this poem written by massage therapist Tara Cox. Blessed are the hands that find those places rarely touched, with memories cleverly hiding for so long from so much. Kind are hands that hear the stories words cannot explain, daring to soothe the hours and years of weariness or pain. Full of grace, those gentle hands that truly and properly feel us, for we don't know how much we hurt until a touch begins to heal us. So when you are ready, open your eyes and gently take your hands from your heart space or belly. To end with, I'd like to finish with the words of Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how they made you feel, how you made them feel even. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina, and very wise words that you ended with. And I really love that poem. Would you be able to share that with us so we could send out? That was beautiful.
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
Thank you. That was a brilliant session. And I'm so pleased we were able to get you back. So if anybody's got any comments, please pop them in the chat box for Nina and she will read through them. And now we're going to go to Sonia. Thank you for your patience, Sonia. And over to you, Sonia.
Hi, I'm unmuted now. Although some would say a mute might be good at times.
No.
Well, thank you for having me on today. My name is Sonia Gundry and I am owner of Sound for Healthy Being in Southampton. And sound for me has come from a very deep and almost sort of primal place in my life. I've always loved sound and I fell in love with a gong when I was 10. And ever since then it's been a love story of sound. But what really came to the fore for me was I had breast cancer when I was 34, and they gave me 5 years, so quite clear, privileged to have had the treatment that I've had. But sound came so much as a benefit to me whilst I was having my treatments. How listening to sound and music helped soften my system on all levels, physical, mental and emotional. And I then over the years learnt more about it and trained. So I am a therapeutic sound practitioner, which means I get to work with amazing instruments, amazing people, and help connect different frequencies. So low frequencies relax, high frequencies stimulate the body, and in a session I can mix those to stretch and release the whole system. So you're never going to get too much high frequencies, because otherwise you'd feel like you were frying in a frying pan. But low frequencies for the purpose are so much better. So physical, mental, emotional levels it can touch you on, release on all those levels. And simply by sitting, laying down and just being open to the process. So I used to do live sound with Jane at Chalmersford, but it's given us a different process now coming through COVID and with lockdown. So people would come, they'd just lay down and I would take them through a session. I'd use gongs, Himalayan bowls, crystal bowls, all with their own sonic signatures, taking you into their own sonic rooms. Himalayan bowls are soft, soothing, like a sonic cuddle. Gongs have friction and energy and work on our physicality. Crystal bowls are pure sound. There's no frequencies, and they touch us in such an incredible way, and they're very, very expansive for the mind. And along the journey our brainwaves change. So as we are here, we're in a wide awake beta brainwave. We could go out, we can walk downstairs, make a cup of tea, walk down the road, get in our cars. During sound and sound meditation, our brainwaves soften, they lower. So we'll go into a soft meditation state of alpha, soft, daydreamy, like we're drifting off to sleep. Below that we can enter theta, where we get rapid eye movement, but it is incredible for our sodium and potassium needs to aid our body. 10 to 15 minutes of theta can replenish our sodium and potassium needs for a day. Now I encourage people to stay with me on this, but sometimes, and I work with a lot of people that are insomniacs, sleep calls, and if this is what you need and you go into, then that is fantastic. So sleep is delta, zonko bonko, fast asleep, out for the count. And we can gain so much from this self-care, this time of just giving to yourself. And as I say, to be present, just laying, sitting, however you want to be, is what you need to do. So with our sound meditation, we journey all over the world, and from the comfort of your own home, your sofa, your chair. For those sometimes that are really poorly, they can stay in bed and access it, and it's just about that time for you. You're safe, you're secure, you're warm. You haven't got to get up and go anywhere to do it. It's here for you, and which is lovely. So after the session you don't have to rush around. It's just a really sort of organic coming to and releasing. So I'm privileged to be able to facilitate these sessions. It is my absolute passion to help people, and I do have a feeling of understanding of cancer myself, but I never say I know exactly how anybody feels, because we don't feel the same. Every one of us here is in their own zone, their own frequency, with their own thoughts, stuff going on. So it's important that they just go through in their own space. And how we start the session is by doing some heart breathing, or R breaths, and it's about relaxing, centering yourself and taking a breath in through the nose, and we hold for a few seconds and we release out through the mouth. And as we release out, you can actually vocalize it, and by vocalizing, for some people it helps with the different levels of tension. So you might just want to breathe in through the nose and breathe out, but you can put more into it. You can put how you feel into it. So you can put a big R into it, or a big heart into it, expressing how you feel. And of course, where we're all muted, we're in our own land, and we can do that in the safety and real softness of how we're feeling. So I will introduce you to a few instruments. As I say, I use gongs, Himalayan bowls and crystal bowls. I'll introduce you to Hilary harp. This is Hilary. She's a therapy harp. So when I'm with people in person, working with them, they can actually hold it and feel the vibrations, and they can play it themselves. But for sound meditation online, you can pick up and just flow with it. It can be fire, it can be stars, it could be a soft flowing river. She can speak many languages from one being. I also use these, which are tongue drums. Again, they can conjure up many senses. You could be skipping, walking through a lake, feeling water through your toes, coming up at your legs. They're just very, very expressive instruments. Sometimes we get a flute. I'm not going to play that because I'm going to use it in a moment. So it's creating different sounds, different feelings. But when you are invited on this journey, and we've done our heart breath and we've visualized the breath, and we take light and warmth through the toes, right the way through the whole of the body, so we can feel it, feel our flow change, feel it relaxing, feel warmth coming in. One of my ladies loves to add buckets of sparkles in and fill her body with shimmering sparkles. So we take this through the body, working all the way around the system, and we bring it up. We feel the breath coming in and release. There is no judgment on the mind or the body, the emotions. It's simply your space. And as we come round the body and come to the heart, we hold, we fill our heart space with love, compassion, and with our amazing group, the support of the group, the support of the peers, the support that we know and we can feel. If we place our hand to our heart, we can recall that love and compassion and remind ourselves that we need to look after ourselves at such difficult times. So we work through the body. We lay our spine down, one vertebrae at a time, on the breath, like an unfurling frond of a fern. Again, you can fill each vertebrae with sparkles. You can fill it with light and warmth and take that right the way down the body, and then bring warmth right the way back up. We come through the arms, the shoulders, down through to the hands, resting our hands open and relaxed. And this goes on for about 20 minutes, and then you're invited to go on a journey. Journeys are escapes. They're safe. You're in your own space, your own time. You're warm. Everything is done through your life lens. So although I'm taking you on a journey, it's about your thoughts, your feelings, your memories. You use your senses. And we actually eat quite a lot on these journeys as well. Make food, eat food. But that's another part of it, is that on these journeys there's no dietary restrictions. We can eat what we want. There's no calories. You don't have to worry about being non-dairy or gluten-free. You can take in whatever you fancy, whatever, oh, do I fancy this today? You can take that on board and eat that. There's no suitcases, no transport, no trains, aeroplanes. It's just about you being there in that space, being open and relaxing and just going with it. So we travel all across the world. You might be in Thailand. You might be in the rainforest, high up in the trees in a beautiful log cabin up there. You might be hula dancing on a beach of turquoise oceans and pale pink sands, riding horses in the sea, on safari, hot air ballooning. There is no limits to where we can go. And if you're willing to just relax and be, you can float there with me. And of course, I've done all the risk assessments, so there's nothing to worry about. So if you do want to go hang gliding or jet skiing or scuba diving, everything is really safe for you. And the other thing is, you can come away from the journey whenever you like, just simply by opening your eyes. If you leave the group for any reason, I do ask that people let me know they're okay. And our group has melded now, because I used to do some sound for Breast Cancer Haven, and a lot of my ladies that I was working with there, some of them have come over now to the Wessex group on a Monday morning. So, you know, if people want to start their mornings, week in a space of gentleness, relaxation, then yeah, come and join me. So what I'd like to do is I'd just like to ask you just to I won't go through all the breath because I realise time has passed on and we're a bit short on it. So we do the breathing work, and then you'd be relaxing, your breath will soften into its own natural rhythm. So I'd just like to ask you now if you'd like to just shut your eyes and relax and come with me on a small section of one of my journeys. And you find yourself sitting next to a wonderful fire pit with the flames flickering gently. the smell of the wood, the essence of the day. The fire brings you warmth and relaxes us, relaxes all our senses, happy and safe. And you lay back on a huge pillow embroidered with silken threads and vibrant colours, a richness of fabrics sewn and created with techniques handed down from generation to generation, each with their own unique designs, as each of us are unique beings. But as you lay warm and relaxed, you look up into the night sky. The twilight has come. The indigo blues have arrived. The sun has set. And up in the sky, stars appear, popping out. Bringing a brightness, taking you into your own universe, your own Milky Way above you, surrounding you, allowing you your space to breathe out, to lose tension, to give back to yourself, a resting of mind, body and spirit, time for you to feel and reconnect with your soul, to your authentic self. And with the stars shining bright, they light your way on this night, to release, to relax from the pressures of the day, to unburden your mind and soul, to bring sleep to your physicality, bring peace to your spirit, and compassion and love to go deep into your soul. And you lay looking up at the stars, listening to the crackles of the fire, the warmth, the softness of your blankets. And it's only when you wish to, and when the flames of your fire lower just to the embers glowing, do you get up and walk in to your beautiful yurt, large, round, beautiful tent with lights like coloured jewels casting against the fabric shell, lanterns, stars, reds, greens, golds, blues, the colours so beautiful. And you climb and take yourself into your bed, to the deepest, softest feather down, where as you snuggle in, it envelops your body and your spirit, cosy and in peace. You lay and just watch the flames flicker on the log burner. You fall asleep to the deepest, most restorative, gentle sleep, and only awaken when the light changes within the yurt. The brightness of this morning touches The canvas brings the light of the day in, and only when you are ready do you slip from the comfort of your bed. Feel the textures of the rugs beneath your feet. Stretch out through your arms and your legs. Open the carved door and visit this new day. A day of bright warmth and sunshine. The sun shines with diamonds sparkling off a beautiful lake. It's just a day that welcomes your spirit. The colours of the day, the blue sky, afar mountains, snow-capped, reaching out as if they're putting their arms around the landscape for safety. The lush green of the flora and fauna, rustic reds and golds as well. You drink and have breakfast, whatever you wish. What would you have right now? And then you take your drink out to the lake and sit on a large stone where many people have sat telling stories of this land. And only when you are ready in your day do you change what you are doing. Maybe I'll go for a walk. Maybe I will swim in this beautiful lake. The choice is yours. And only when you are ready, comfortably dressed, do you decide, I will walk in this beautiful land. Each footstep connects to the earth, connects to your spirit. You walk the edge of the lake. Do you paddle, feeling the coolness of the water in your toes? Do you feel so good that you lift your arms and dance? You go on along, taking in the day, the sights and the smells, feeling your connection. No rush, no complications. There are no time limits on this day. You hear the birds singing, you taste the air. Ahead of you, you see forest. Such a contrast to these wide open spaces. To breathe, where you see birds flying high, eagles drifting on the thermals. Having paddled and walked along the edge of the lake, you decide to go into the forest to feel and experience a different sense. From the warmth of the day, you move into the woods, the height of the trees, smell of pine, of moss, the dappling sun coming through the trees, the branches stretching out like fingers above your head, a place of safety, a place of nature for reconnecting. You walk, you see other animals in the woods, the birds rustling in the trees and the leaves, some wild horses grazing. You hear the burbling of water and follow it, another sound with the birds and the land and a gentle breeze whispering through. You find a beautiful waterfall burbling and tumbling, and you love the sound. It calls to your heart, and you decide, if you want to, that you can sit and listen and just be at one in this beautiful place. Your mind wanders. Where it goes? Maybe nowhere, just into the softness of the day. And you just lay back and embrace this beautiful landscape. Your mind has flown and taking you places wherever you wish to go, and you can stay there for as long as you like. And you may go back on your journey, back to the water, to the lake whenever you want. You can revisit it another day, but for now, stretch out, look up at the dappled sun through the trees, stretch out through your arms and your legs, your fingers and your toes. Stretch out and return to me.
Thank you so much, Sonia. That was just beautiful. I've heard about work you do, but I need to explore that more, and I think we all need to. So it's wonderful that we've been able to record this, so people can come back in and listen. So that was absolutely beautiful, and thank you.
So just a small segment of what is usually around about a 45-minute journey.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for that snapshot. So there's some lovely comments in the chat box, so do take a look, and I'm going to hand over to Frankie to wrap up. but it's been absolutely joyous to see you all. Frankie.
Okay, thank you all. I was going to give a longer goodbye to you all, but I think we're a bit short of time. So what I will say is that I come to these sessions just to think, well, I'm helping to do this for everybody, but I get so much personal enjoyment out of everything that you bring along. I learn new things, and I take so much away with me. So thank you all so much. I just want to really say, yeah, thank you to you all, and thank you to Drop the Mask as well for all your help in this. And we will be asking for feedback, so and comments and suggestions. So if you could do that, and I will now leave it for Eileen to actually do any little formal bits that she needs to do before we say goodbye. But thank you all so much for coming, and thank you. It's just, I don't know what to say. It's just so beautiful. Over to you, Eileen.
So thank you so much, Frankie. So really, there's not much else for me to say, but just thank you to all our speakers. And we will be sharing everything as I've been describing in the chat box. So we will say au revoir, and we hope to see you again in the future, and hopefully for a face-to-face meeting, maybe in the spring. But do feel you can come to any of our meetings to hear about our work. Thank you. Bye-bye.